possession has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109 Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Now, from the land of Joseph Chestnuts, here we are in absolutely gorgeous Westfield, Indiana. The morning dew is pristine. James Boyd, the basketball-looking sun, rising above the barn. I mean, hashtag Indiana. And training camp is officially upon us. Report day is here for the Indianapolis Colts. We will call this place home for the next 6 shows. So all week long here. Of course, today, report day, and then practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll be back here Monday, Tuesday for morning practice. It is here, and I'm really glad that years ago they decided to change US 31 to no stoplights because it makes the commute up here a little bit easier.
Yeah, I will say, my first time being out here this early, obviously for the show, wasn't a part of it last year at this time.
It's a breeze, right?
Yeah, I honestly enjoy it. You know, less traffic, the better. So got to get up a little bit earlier than usual. Usually I have like a 10-minute drive into the station, maybe 5 if there's no traffic. But no complaints, man. Glad to be out here.
Cam, thank you, on-site engineer. He's got us set up, locked and loaded. Mark Dykton back in studio. A big shout-out to Ken, part of the Grand Park. Tremendous staff here. He brings us some morning waters. He was ready for us at about 6:50 this morning. And, again, things will get underway probably about a little over an hour, maybe closer to the 9 o'clock hour. We should have Kenny Moore II joining us here live at Report Day. Basically, James, kind of lay of the land. Typically, about 5-6 Colts will meet the media on Report Day, so you will see the pictures of players trickling into the facility here at Grand Park. And then later today, around lunchtime, we'll hear from Chris Ballard. Certainly will provide a lot of that audio for you. Coming up on tomorrow's show, again, Kenny Moore will join us, hopefully have another Colts player. But that's how today looks. And then everything will get started at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Again, a lot of morning practices here in late July. Then as we transition to August, you'll get probably a little bit more weekend flavor, a little bit more afternoon flavor. They've got that night practice as well, and then that one joint session with the Green Bay Packers, which will put a bow on camp.
Yeah, it's going to be –
Gosh, Mark, you were all over that.
He was waiting to hit that button. But I will say I am curious, like everyone else is, after tomorrow's practice or tomorrow's training camp opener, just to kind of see where the quarterback competition is, how many reps is Anthony Richardson taking, and things of that nature, because I think a lot of it has to do with the quarterback competition, obviously. We could talk about every other position battle. We can talk about every other scenario, new ownership. But on the field, it comes down to the quarterback play, and there's still a lot of question marks there as far as, what Anthony Richardson's current status is, what his future status might be, as well as Daniel Jones and where he feels he is in this quarterback competition as well. So I'm very curious to hear from Chris Ballard later today about that, where Anthony is, what does he want to see from him and Daniel Jones and others, but also hearing from Anthony Richardson himself, which should be coming up tomorrow after practice.
I think it's one of the odder Colts seasons I can remember. And by that
already?
Well, I guess like anticipation for a season.
Yeah.
And by that I mean this, James. When is the last time as an organization you sat here on Report Day and fans thought to themselves, wait a minute, are the 3 pillars of the organization going to make it to next year? And the 3 pillars being your GM, your head coach, and your quarterback. Like, even through the up and down nature at times, and honestly I think it was more off the field than on the field, with Ryan Grigson and Chuck Pagano, you always knew Andrew Luck was going to make it. He wasn't going anywhere. Obviously, the Peyton days, he was going nowhere. I mean, you got to go back 30-plus years to the last time we have sat here on this day in late July and thought to yourself, the 3 pillars, there are major questions about them making it to 2026. And then you throw in the Carly Ursay-Gordon aspect to it. I think that's a different wrinkle. And then having said all of that, as major of questions as those are for your organization, you still are in the greatest division that has ever been created in the NFL, and that's the AFC South. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. And you are one C.J. Stroud injury away from having a realistic shot at finally winning this division for the first time in a decade. So, again, I just think this is one of the more just odd years. And I don't know if you felt this way in talking with fans, but it's just a different feeling walking into this year for the 2025 Colts. There's natural anticipation with the NFL. It's the NFL, of course.
Yeah.
But, when I talk to a lot of fans, a lot of longtime fans, it just seems like, oh, boy. And I don't know, maybe the Pacers run had something to do with it, but it just seems like, well, I guess here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, certainly. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the lack of success. There's a lot of pressure on this team, and it should be a lot of pressure on this team to finally get out of this playoff drought, to finally sort of put your stamp on, like you said, Kevin, a division that's been wide open and open for the taking. And I'll even take it to this point, Kevin. I know we talk all the time about the AFC South, and the point that you make often and I make and others make is like you're one CJ Stroud injury away, but also how about you just beat them? I mean, are the Texans, the New England Patriots of old or something like that? Are they unbeatable? They've had vulnerability within their team as well, and I feel like they aren't this invincible team. Like, you know what I mean? This isn't the Kansas City Chiefs over in their division where it's like,
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, like you just know, okay, well, they got that dude over there. They're impossible to beat. Like, everyone's just playing for second place. I think you can go out there and still win the division, in theory, without that. But a lot of it, again, goes back to the quarterback play. How much do you trust that? And then ultimately, I know we talked about this, I want to say a few days ago on the show, maybe last week, you have to win some games you're not supposed to. And that really hasn't happened with this team as of late. That's one thing, and I'm not saying we should go back to Frank Reich, but to his credit, when he was here, the Colts would usually win a game or two a year where you're like, you know what, maybe they weren't supposed to win that game, but they won it. And I feel like that hasn't happened very often here. I know we can look back at the Baltimore Ravens game a couple years ago. Like, that's one that sticks out to me. But I know last year, like, there were not really those games where I'm like, okay, you were not supposed to win this, or you had an upset. Like, a lot of those games, I feel like they kind of got out of it, very fortunately because of, the lack of talent on the other side. I mean, they beat the Dolphins barely, but they didn't have a quarterback. They had, me and you throwing the ball. And so I think those things, have to shift for this season. And then ultimately, if you want the season to feel different, do something different. Win your season opener, beat the Jaguars in Duval County, and do some things like that.
Snoop Huntley, Tad Boyle catching strays here from James Boyd early on this Tuesday morning. We're live here in Westfield, Colts training camp. Going to get underway, officially practice tomorrow, but report day, always a busy day here. So we are live. Boy, what a gorgeous morning. Maybe it's because we're trapped in a closet doing our show the rest of the week, but I was reminded how great an Indiana morning could look like. And it's not like scorching hot either.
No, as you can see.
This is Jake Query Snuggie weather.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got the hoodie. I almost brought the Snuggie for you, Kevin, but –
that's the softest thing I've ever heard.
Hey, it's supposed to be soft. The Snuggie's soft. I don't want a hard Snuggie. So, and we're not going to Snuggie shame here on the show, okay? To each their own. But I do agree with you. It is pretty nice out here, and honestly, you kind of forget that the sun comes up when you're doing the show. Like, I go in there, and it's a little dark, and then I come out, and it's like the middle of the day, and the sun's already fully up in the sky. So,
James,
this is cool.
Like we're acting like we've been trapped and all of a sudden haven't seen daylight in years. No Caitlin Clark tonight for the Fever. That's official. Yesterday, they are a significant underdog as they're back from the All-Star break. I believe it's ESPN tonight for them. They've got the Liberty coming up at 8 o'clock, so a rematch of a game where they got pretty much dusted right before the All-Star break out there in New York. We will have Alex Golden joining us here in about 20. Again, from a Colts standpoint, guest-wise, we'll pick up the pace in about 90 minutes. But, we're so fortunate, James, to have Rick Carlisle join us every Tuesday. And no matter where the Pacers are at in their schedule, time zone, et cetera, Rick Carlisle joins us. And, Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, I think has formed, pretty consistent appearance with JMV. Speaking of Westfield, by the way, Chad Buchanan, a Westfield product. JMV and Chad have some great conversations. And Alex on Setting the Pace, that podcast, they had Chad on the other day. And I thought it was pretty enlightening on a couple of different Pacer fronts. So, naturally, as we move on later in the week, we're going to be talking so much Colts. I felt like, what if we can sneak in a little Pacers combo because of that conversation with Chad Buchanan and Alex Golden and Facci, the other co-host that Alex does Setting the Pace with. So we'll chat with him coming up at 7:30. And, again, on a couple of fronts, not just Miles Turner related, but I thought Chad had a really interesting answer on, what player he thinks could be affected the most by Tyrese Halliburton's absence. It was not the player that I thought of. So we'll chat with Alex coming up here at 7:30. A naked Mark Dykton back in studio. Joins us here. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning. How you boys doing out there?
Well, I have on pants, and I'm hoping the same for you.
No comment.
Should have the camera back on Mark. Mark, the first thing I did when I came out of the field, I mean, it is. Look at that dew. I mean, how great is that dew? That dew looks illustrious. Not a fresh mow, so no cow dung, no animal dung anywhere, no mysterious looking perhaps animal feces anywhere so far. So I'll keep my eyes peeled though if I see anything.
First day of camp, plenty of days left.
I see 26 of the 32 teams are reporting today.
Yes, I believe that was Adam Schefter who was getting on my nerves this morning, dinging my phone. Usually happens that way.
With useless information.
Well, not useless information, but I guess it's, more trivial for, the average fan. But for me, I'm thinking about one camp, and it's the one I'm at. So it is cool walking in here, though, before it gets lively. I know fans will be out here tomorrow. And I do appreciate the opportunity to kind of, interact more, Kevin, with, the people who listen to us every day, those who read our work and things like that. I think this is the most time or most opportunities all year you get a chance to really interact with the fan base and those who support our work. So that's always cool, too.
Yeah, I've said it to you and Mark a lot. I love the remote shows. I love the chance when we can get out of studio and finally get a little bit of what John gets so often from 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And I know with Colt City, which I just made a walk over here of Colt City for those that have been up here at Grand Park, it's not only a great viewing experience, the field is literally right there.
Yep.
But also Colt City's perfect. You got little kids. I saw they had a toddler zone. So I know we're not fully back to school yet, hopefully for anybody. So you can bring your kids out here. But, yes, Colt City usually will open up 10 a.m. practice start times. I feel like it usually opens up at 9 a.m. So we are in our normal location, if you've seen us before, way on the northwest end, if I have my compass right, of the fields here at Westfield. So definitely stop by, say hey, and I know today it'll be quiet, but tomorrow it will be pretty busy. One other Colts item I want to get to at some point today. I thought J.J. Stankovitz from Colts.com did a great job in having a sit-down interview with Carly Ursay-Gordon. We've chatted, James, about how will the interactions be with her? Will they be as frequent? Not that Jim Irsay talked a ton, but, training camp, for example, is one of the times he did chat. And I thought there were a couple of interesting things that Carly said. A really nice piece on Colts.com from JJ, so we will hit that as well here on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for spending it with us live here from Westfield. Again, Cam, shout out to him on site. He has got us set up, and we are ready to go. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton back in studio. Kenny Moore II joins us later. Thank you for tuning in. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
107.5 The Fan.
Live from Westfield, here we are. It's Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton back in studio. Report day for the Indianapolis Colts. Kenny Moore II among the Colts players expected to join us here live, of course. And again, practice starts Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All morning sessions, afternoon on Saturday. So we'll get you set for everything. Chris Ballard will speak to the media a little bit later today. That will be, of course, a heavy part of our conversation. James, no Caitlin Clark tonight in the Big Apple. It's Fever and Liberty, 11.5-point underdog. I did see Jonquel Jones is back for the Liberty. She did not play in the matchup last week, so I know the Fever have had some notable wins without Caitlin Clark in the lineup. I'm not expecting tonight to be one of them.
Yeah, and on top of that, I saw that Emma Miesemann, one of the top players in Europe the last few years and a former Finals MVP, just signed with the Liberty, and so the rich get richer as they try to go defend their title.
Moving on to Major League Baseball, Joel A. Erickson's Brewers continue to win. Last night in baseball, I'd say the highlights are this, and this is what happens when the Cubs and the Reds lose. The Phillies won on catcher's interference, and Mark, did the dude ever get out of the basket at Wrigley?
Oh, my God. that was like the first inning, too. I'm like, you can't be that hammered yet.
Did he catch the ball?
He didn't catch it. It went in the basket, and then he just leapt over and fell into it to get it.
God, what an effort.
That was quite a scene.
On a Monday in the first inning, that's a great point, too. By the way, I went to Fat Dan's over the weekend. Love Fat Dan's. Family went. Cubs hit homers in their first two batters of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
That place was rocking. I mean, you would have thought it was like a playoff game in October. Have you been to a Fat Dan's, Mark, during a Cubs game?
I have not, but now I need to.
Oh, you gotta go. There's one on Mass Ave. I think there's one in Carmel as well. First off, it's a great place. Second off, yeah, you would absolutely love it. They, pipe in the audio over the loudspeakers there. So, Cubs got steamrolled last night. Reds lost. Indianapolis Indians back at home. Toledo. Been a while since they played at home. They've got Toledo all week long. A couple other random news items. Out in Vegas today, it is Big Ten Media Day out there. So you will get, I think Indiana's a part of the first 6 teams involved. They'll break up teams across, I think, 3 days, 6 teams each day. And I believe Kurt Cignetti and company is today. Do you think we'll get Cignetti being Cignetti again this year? Or do you think it was like, no, I need to be like this last year because no one else acts like IU is a respectable program?
Can you act like that considering your non-con schedule? Yes, I'm rallying up Kevin Bowen early this morning, people. I'm just asking a question.
Gosh, you feel like I'm at the driving range. I'm putting the ball on the tee for Matty Bowen here.
I'm just throwing it out there, but I don't know because, and I say that as a joke, but kind of not. I mean the question in all seriousness. He dialed himself back a little bit last season. Yeah. As the year moved along. He did.
Dialed it back. And then, the day of the Notre Dame game, he couldn't help himself.
Yeah, but I think part of that was being on, College Game Day and
sure,
having some of the hype.
But I am genuinely curious about that. Now, you did tee me up. I believe I saw that Indiana is the only Big Ten team to not have a Power 4 non-conference opponent in any of the next 4 years. So I don't want to hear this. This is how the Big Ten's approaching things. People have said this to me.
Yeah.
The Big Ten plays 9 conference games. They don't need anything other non-conference. They're the only team in the conference without a Power 4 opponent the next 4 years.
All I know is it's a 10-point game when they played Notre Dame last year, so,
Why did you have to set me up for that?
You set me up for that. I just had to, bring it in a little bit.
Tweet of the day yesterday goes to the L.A. Chargers, the gosh damn best. That was the 4-word tweet to announce Phillip Rivers is indeed hanging it up. I'm going to be honest, guys. I had no idea that Phillip Rivers hadn't officially announced his retirement.
Okay, I'm going to be a hater this morning.
He hasn't played since COVID.
Yeah, not on Phillip Rivers. I think he's a fantastic player, great human, and from what you all told me covering him in his one season in Indy, he was awesome. However, there should be a time limit on your retirement announcements because I saw this and I was like, what the heck are you doing?
I think I'm with you on that.
Like, we knew you were retired. You hadn't played in forever. What are we doing?
Speaking of Kurt Cignetti, I think he coached him at NC State as quarterback's coach there. So, I guess at 43 years old, he is officially hung it up here.
I'm seeing not crocodile tears. They're legit tears, but I'm seeing tears and reminiscing and biting the lip and the lip is quivering. I'm like, you've had a chance to come to grips with all these emotions over the last 5 years you haven't played, man. What are you doing?
I just know that Notre Dame needs to recruit a son, Gunnar Rivers, if nothing else.
That is a
besides
name.
The name. Speaking of the Chargers, Nyheim Hines, you see this yesterday? He has signed with the Chargers. Now, remember, the horrific and just wild jet ski accident that Nyheim Hines suffered. Again, I think details on that still a hair vague, but we have
But
not
to be clear,
seen.
one thing we do know about that is he was not, like, moving. He got hit by somebody else when he was just sitting on a jet ski.
So he has been out of the NFL for 2 years. He will join the Chargers. They do have a connection there from the Colts. Marcus Brady, remember, offensive coordinator for a cup of coffee here. He is the passing game coordinator out there for Jim Harbaugh and company. So he will try to, resurrect his NFL career with the Chargers. So, again, 90-man rosters around the NFL. You see some of these signings. So, Nyheim Hines getting a chance at that. The only other item I had was the TBT tournament last night at Hinkle. I actually watched this, the Elam ending in full effect. You guys have heard this from me before. I love the Elam ending. This is where they set the target score at one point, and you have to, reach that target score. You can't simply run out the clock. The Butler team, All Good Dogs, was down to fail harder. I think it was 72-61. So they're down 11. Target score is 80. So fail harder needs 8. All Good Dogs needs, 19?
Yes.
To get to 80. And Butler came back, had 2 3-pointers for the win. Missed both. I think it was Jordan Walker maybe for fail harder. Tipped it in to win it 80 to, I guess, whatever it would have been, 77. But that's why I love the Elam ending. You get this unbelievable, great drama of, again, it's like pickup a little bit of like, no, you've got to make the basket for the win there. So fail harder with a lot of Indy connections, some Indy guys. Darius Adams was, again, great last night. They advanced to the regional title tonight against Carmen's Crew, kind of an Ohio State flavor team. They are the defending TBT champs. Again, $1 million goes the winner of this.
So not both, but 2 of the Indiana teams, or actually all 3. Did the Fort Wayne team lose?
Fort Wayne lost last night.
Carmen Crew or whatever. But, yeah, so, like, that's all 3 of them. That's kind of rough. But I will say the theater of that game last night was pretty amazing. I watched it, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I actually think that that's one of the all-star changes that was good a couple years ago for the NBA all-star game, the Elam ending. Even though the score would get ridiculous, if it was still within, 10 points, the fourth quarter, the final few minutes would get a little better to me.
Shout out to Clark Wade. He's here an hour early for interviews. He's just going to bully the TVs out of the way to make sure that Indy Star has got the best video.
He's emerged from, he's usually off. I
Awesome.
only see him for high school games most of the time. Now he's back to give us his services, his greatness.
Sounded like an unwarranted shot at Clark
No, man,
Wade
I love
there.
Clark, man. He's the best. I actually see him all the time and gives great video coverage of high school athletics and also, Colts and Pacers and Fever and everything else.
Colts combo will dominate the day, but still some Pacer chatter. Alex Golden, a really good interview with Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM. We'll chat with Alex on the other side. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd in Westfield. Mark Dykton back in studio. Fan Morning Show on a Tuesday.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Little OAR action, bringing us back here on this Tuesday morning live from Westfield. It is the Fan Morning Show report day for Colts training camp, and the Colts will dominate the conversation really for the rest of the week here on the show. But I thought we needed to sneak in some Pacers combo before we kind of shift gears. I thought outstanding interview with Chad Buchanan, the Setting the Pace squad. Alex Golden, you hear him on our airwaves a good amount, and Facci did a wonderful job with the Pacers GM over the weekend. You can find that out on the Setting the Pace podcast, and to talk about that, Alex joins us right now. Mr. Golden, great work on that. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, I always appreciate Chad's availability to come on the podcast, and I felt like this was probably one of his most transparent conversations we've had with him since joining the show throughout the season. So it's definitely, I'm very grateful that he was able to give us some insight on some things.
The answer that stood out to you the most was what?
Good question. I would say the one that probably stood out to me the most was just how open they're going to be for the competition at the shooting guard spot and the center position. It was, we're not committing to anything other than Nesmith, Siakam, and Nembhard being our starters, and everything else is kind of up for grabs. So I think that'll be very interesting to see what happens at training camp. You can probably pinpoint who you think the favorites are to get it, but it seems like they want to look at everything before they just commit to anybody.
How stunned would you be if Benedict Mathurin was not a starter?
I would be pretty shocked.
Because, I mean, that answer stood out to me too, man. When
Yeah.
he said that, I'm like, wait, I mean, yeah, I don't see, I guess I can't see another starter in there, but, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because I thought when Rick said it, maybe he was just not thinking about what he was saying in terms of, like, not committing to the two guard, but Rick is pretty, honest about how he feels about things. So I was like, maybe he was just talking, didn't think too much about it, but when Chad kind of doubled down on it, I said, okay, I think there's a lot that's in play here, obviously, just because Mathurin, contract year, I think that plays a factor into it, not wanting to, maybe give him something before he earns it and kind of give him a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder. That could be more of the motivation. But if he doesn't start, I will be flabbergasted by who they're going to put in there, because I just don't think they'll have enough scoring.
We got a flabbergasted at 7:36 in the morning. That is quite the word there, Alex Golden. I do want to get one more in on Benedict Mathurin. Why do you think there is perhaps the hesitation to give him that title? Like, what things do you want to see from him, or perhaps the team should like to see from him as he goes into another season where obviously it will be pivotal for him and the team to see if he's a dude and can be a dude every single night?
Well, yeah, I think part of it, too, is like we've heard so many people say, with Halliburton out, you got to give the keys to Mathurin. This is the great opportunity for him to prove his worth. And I don't think they want to do that specifically. I think they kind of have like their, hierarchy in terms of Siakam kind of being the guy. And then they seem to really have given Nembhard a ton of responsibility now, taking over for Tyrese's spot at the point guard. I mean, when Chad mentioned that him and Nembhard and Siakam met with him for dinner and the front office and the coaching staff just to kind of talk about what their roles are going to be going into this season, to me it kind of says, okay, you're our two guys. And I think that might be where they're trying to keep that relationship with Mathurin. Like, okay, you got to earn this. You haven't earned it yet. I think he was kind of up and down in the playoffs still. I wasn't in love with his overall performance, but I think he was pretty good overall. But there were some moments where he was just kind of like he disappeared. So I think they want him to earn it and not just give it to him. And also, I think it's a contract year, because the moment you give him a starting spot, now he's going to be asking for starters' money. And that makes it even more of a sticky situation when it comes to bringing Halliburton back and what you do with the rest of the roster. So I think that also plays a factor into what they're kind of wanting from Mathurin as well.
They put him at the kids' table. So when you finish eating your vegetables, you can come, sit with us.
Honestly, I think Mathurin's been he's been at the kids' table a lot, I think, in his NBA career. Setting the Pace is the podcast. Alex Golden does a wonderful job with that. Chad Buchanan was the guest, and a really, really good listen. A couple other things that stood out to me. One, the medical exemption, if I have the phrasing right, for Tyrese Halliburton. That news item Chad shared with you. The Pacers applied for that and got it. Could you explain to our audience, I guess, how that works, and if you think the Pacers will then use that?
Yeah, so they applied for a disabled player exception, which means that Tyrese won't be able to play all season long, and they were granted that. And so I believe it's like basically the equivalent of the mid-level exception is what they could use to bring a player in at that amount of money. However, it does count against their salary and their cap, and they don't open up a roster spot with Halliburton basically not playing for the year, which I think is kind of interesting. So now they kind of have to navigate only being able to keep 14 guys on the roster that can actually play because Halliburton counts as one of those 15 spots. And so now that kind of does put a bit of a crunch on what they want to do with their roster. So they could bring somebody in, but right now I think they already have their 15-man roster kind of set up besides Tony Bradley, who is on a non-guaranteed contract, which Chad mentioned probably 3 or 4 times that contract is non-guaranteed and that they could make a move by, cutting him after camp or whatnot. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as well. But the Pacers could go out there. If somebody becomes available on the buyout market, they could go out there and sign somebody into that exception as well. It just would count against them, and it would put them into different tax thresholds. I think they have to be careful about that. But they wouldn't have to use all of it. They can just use up to, I think, around what the mid-level exception is, which is around $15 million.
I thought it was interesting he mentioned how much he thinks Pascal Siakam could and will be affected by the loss of Tyrese Halliburton. I just kind of naturally look at, obviously, Nembhard. He's sliding over to point guard duties for 82 nights out of the year. Certainly Mathurin is going to, you would think, take on more of a lead scoring role in that starting unit. Siakam seems like, for the most part, he can be pretty much an individual creator. And, maybe not creating off the dribble per se, but offensively he's just so gifted. Did that surprise you at all, how much he kind of pointed that out? And I don't know, I guess age and kind of managing workload was an answer for why Chad offered, Pascal as that answer. But that stood out to me a little bit.
Yeah, it did to me a little bit too. But I also think, like, Tyrese he does so much in terms of, like, what the other team focuses on. And so now all that attention's probably going to put on Siakam, even more so. So I think it's going to make it a little bit more challenging for him, but just playing a different style, because I think that's what it really comes down to. I don't know how they're going to be able to play Halliburton basketball without Halliburton. And I'm curious how they're going to have to try to, like, change that because, Chad brought it up too. You're used to having 2 ball handlers on the court at all time with Nembhard and Tyrese. And then when TJ comes in certain times, it's just you don't have that option now. Now you basically just have one table setter in Nembhard, and everybody else, is not used to doing that. So I think that's going to change a lot in terms of their style of play. But it could also open up opportunities for other guys to maybe take on some of that role a little bit if they want to play that style. But, yeah, I just think with Pascal, like, they said that they want to win. They committed to him by saying, hey, we're going to try to win this year. We're not taking this year off. It's not a gap year for us. And so they're going to do whatever they can to, make sure that they're winning at the highest level next year, even without Tyrese. And a lot of it's going to be put on Pascal's shoulders to just kind of carry this load.
One of the things that stood out to me from your conversation with Chad was, obviously him and really the entire team, at least the front office people we've talked to this summer about Isaiah Jackson. They're very high on him, and I think they proved it with his contract. I was a little surprised that he got that much money coming off the Achilles tear. But, your thoughts on Chad's, assessment of him and how he could fit into that center rotation?
Yeah, I think they feel pretty good about, what he brings to the table. Obviously a little bit different than Miles because he's not an outside threat. But they talked – I asked him about adding weight and looking like he's put on like 20, 30 pounds.
He looks so different. He looks like a superhero now. Jeez.
and they said that's kind of been the goal the whole time, is to get him to keep adding weight. But during this, he wasn't able to do much with his leg work, no cardio. And so all of it looked bulkier up top because he wasn't able to do cardio, which I thought was interesting. And then he, mentioned now that he's been running a little bit more, he's already lost some of that weight. So I'll be kind of curious to see what his actual, body type is coming into training camp, just because he looked really bulky. And some of those pictures, I know Tony had a video as well. I mean, he just looked bigger. And so that was, interesting to me because he's going to have to take a lot more wear and tear being the starting 5. But I think, Chad basically just said, like, they like his rebounding and his defense. And I think they feel pretty good about how he can fit in because he's one of the only guys that's been here this whole time with Rick Carlisle and knows this system in and out. So I think that's going to play to his favor as well.
I'm just picturing Alex Golden like a clipboard and like a stopwatch, when training camp begins. If Isaiah Jackson is out there, like, all right, what are you weighing in there, young man? All right, go, go do some down and backs for me. Let's see how he's looking. He might have to drop 5 pounds or whatever.
Setting the Pace is the podcast. Alex Golden, great work with Chad Buchanan. Last one from me. It just seems like we won't get an answer, and so I will ask it to you. You asked the question very directly. I thought it was a question that deserved to be asked. Would the Pacers have matched $27 million for Miles Turner? Chad Buchanan, one of the very few questions he did not answer in that podcast interview. So I'll ask you, Alex, do you think the Pacers would have matched $27 million had Miles presented that to them?
I think that the laugh and the fact that he said we would have liked the opportunity to match is the answer that tells you no, they would not have matched it. I think that they had their number in mind, and they would have liked to have had the opportunity to do it, but that to me says, you know what, we're good. And so I think that he skirted around that question, which I kind of expected, but I felt like I had to ask it because it was just one of those things where I wanted to know, and he didn't want to get into the contract negotiations, but I definitely think that after all said and done, that was not going to be the number they were going to give him. So I think they were incredibly shocked by Milwaukee creating that cap space to make that move. And so, you know, I think for Miles too, like one thing to keep in mind is I think he really wanted to feel like he was a bigger role than what he was with the Pacers, because at times he was the fifth man on the starting five. And, you know, now going to Milwaukee, he's definitely going to be starting out at least the number 2 guy. And I think he kind of wanted that role and wanted to embrace that.
1 month ago was Game 7. Is that crazy to think about? 1 month ago tonight was Game 7, June 20th.
That is crazy to think about, seriously.
That's wild. Wild. Again, I said it yesterday on the show, and Kathy Engelberg brought that up during the WNBA press conference over the weekend of, you know, what happens when a series goes 7 and just what that means for your league and everything. Yeah. And oh, boy, and everything that's transpired since. Alex, I thought it was great work, man. I know I texted you that, but certainly I encourage people, maybe at 10:01 today, to dial up the Chad Buchanan Setting the Pace podcast. But great work by you guys, and as always, man, we appreciate the time, especially early on this Tuesday morning.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you know, the kudos for the podcast, and I appreciate Chad's transparency. And just one other thing I wanted to say that you brought up that I thought was interesting, and also KP, they talked about making a trade, and they said we're really, we're ready to make a trade if we need to make one, and they even said this season. And so I thought that was pretty interesting that they did pinpoint this season as making a trade, which you would think they might not want to do that based on where they're at, but to me that was pretty telling. Like, hey, they might want to win a little bit more, especially if there's a guy available. And he talked about Tyrese having a lot of time on his hands to play some GM for him, and I thought that was really interesting as well.
LeBron James to the Pacers. You heard it here first from Alex Golden.
They can trade all their picks, right, Alex?
They can.
I'm just throwing it out there. You know, he is very fond of Tyrese Halliburton.
Do you have room for Bronny as well?
Oh Lord, with our 14 players on the roster, I'm not so sure.
Bronny would be playing down the street, right? Wouldn't he be playing for the Noblesville Boom here down the street? Alex, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Enjoy the training camp.
Thank you. Yes, we are indeed live here at Westfield. It is a gorgeous start to this Tuesday morning. Report day is here for the Indianapolis Colts. Let it be known, our first TV in the building is Wish TV. No surprise there whatsoever there. So duly noted for all of our local TVs out there.
I hope you guys brought sunglasses, by the way. It looks like you guys are getting smoked by the sun right now.
Yeah,
I left mine in the car.
Same.
I might have to go grab them.
Same, I know. I think the sun's about to be above the tent, and so maybe that will help us out a little bit here. But, yeah, things starting to pick up a little bit. Players reporting for training camp. You'll start to see some pictures, I'm sure, on social media very soon. Kenny Moore II among the Colts players scheduled to join us here live. And, again, 10 a.m. tomorrow. First practice. James, we'll hear from Chris Ballard at noon today. What do you want to know?
Where is Anthony in his progress? What do you expect to see from him throughout this first week of training camp? I also want to know about linebacker. Do you think about, potentially adding there, especially if Zaire Franklin and Jalen Carlisle are not available to start training camp? And I feel like the yearly question is probably one of the first ones is just, how much pressure do you feel to win? And do you feel any differently now that ownership has changed a bit and things of that nature? I have to probably phrase it better than that. I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to be direct and kind of pointing out, hey, every year we point out your record. Every year we point out what you haven't done. And is this the year that, you feel a little more just pressure overall to succeed because you don't have that owner who had an affinity for you unlike any other owner, I would say.
It's really I thought it was an interesting question. Larry here on Twitter reached out and says, what happens if Anthony Richardson surprises everyone, has a really good season, healthy, consistent, good numbers, but for whatever reason they just miss the playoffs? Does AR proving he's the starter next season save Chris and Shane's job, or is it playoffs or bust regardless of the quarterback?
Ooh, that's a good question. If AR is balling, though, I think it's hard to move on from the GM and the coach who brought him here. It also depends on how you miss the playoffs, too.
I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
Can you imagine another year of missed playoffs and running it back for a 10th year with Chris Ballard?
But that's what I'm like. I don't think you would be safe if Anthony has a great year. Like, I don't think if he has a great year and you miss the playoffs, I don't think it's an automatic, oh, yeah, well, you know what? That's good enough. No, I still think there could be some changes there for sure.
We brought this up to start the show. I thought J.J. Stankovitz from Colts.com did a really nice job. Carly Ursay-Gordon, a piece really kind of through her eyes, her vision. Obviously, she is now, I think, the lead voice within the organization. In regards to Richardson, she said, kind of a short quote here, but she says here, where he is in his career and in his deal as a rookie, we still have time. He still has time to prove it. She's not wrong, and I guess if I'm looking for the analogy per se, James, I don't know. It's like a kid going into, his senior year of college, and he has no job? You got time, but time's going to start to tick real soon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a better analogy. I don't know. A kid, bless you, Cam, a kid, first semester into his senior year of high school, and he's not sure where he's going to go to college. Like that sort of – she's not wrong. Again, in his rookie contract, it is year 3 of a 4-year deal with a 5th-year team option. Right. But as we talked about yesterday, financial decisions start now.
Absolutely. And honestly, I look at it like this, Kevin, where, you have so many questions about his future that at some point the potential and that word becomes a very, very bad word because we keep talking about potential going into your 3rd year. You got to show us something. You got to put something down on some paper or down on the field. And there were flashes last year, but not nearly enough to say that you are going to be the guy or that it's kind of figured out. So it is an interesting dynamic, and it's interesting to hear her talk about that. But also, keep in mind the one player I always think of a little bit when we talk about quarterbacks and, timeline, should they pay him? Jordan Love, they didn't figure it out with him kind of until maybe that 4th, 5th year. And they had like the 2-year kind of like bridge contract that they did with him. So in theory, could the Colts be thinking about something like that if Anthony Richardson doesn't have the outstanding 2025 campaign that they would love for him to have? I'm not so sure. So there are different, ways, and perhaps I'm just thinking outside of the box because of what I saw the Bucks do on the NBA side to get Miles Turner. But there's always different ways to sort of, figure out how you want to approach Anthony's future. And it's not just this black and white thing that I think we made it out to be, which I know people don't want to hear that, hear it almost 8 o'clock in the morning, but I think it is a reality for this team, and you have to think about all those possibilities as an NFL franchise.
I do think Colts fans will like one particular answer that Carly Ursay-Gordon shared, and we will hit on that here coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Ryan in the YouTube chat, any connection to the Kevin Pritchard trade talk on the non-commitment to Benedict Mathurin at the 2?
Ooh.
So do you put either of those two things, I guess, together of, all right, the starting 2 guard is up in the air and we're open to trades? Or do you look at it and say, they're just saying that to try and continue to light a fire under Benedict Mathurin?
I think it's twofold because you don't necessarily dismiss players, and not that they've dismissed him, but you don't dismiss the notion of him starting right away if you know he's going to start, if you know he's a guy. Like if Benedict Mathurin came out and, was really – and I think he's still a very good player in his draft class, but if he had proven he was a star by now, we wouldn't even be talking like this about who's starting and is he going to get paid. This will be a formality. The extension will probably already be done by now. But since it hasn't been done, I think that's always a possibility. And to trade, Kevin, you got to have something that people want. I think that he's still a wanted player outside of Indiana. It's just, can you figure out, one, how to keep him here? You never want your draft picks to leave, but it is a possibility, I would think.
I think we have such insane expectations for top 10 draft picks. Like, I know you weren't meaning this, but you said he hasn't proven that he's a star right now or something along those lines.
Yeah.
If you look at the number 6 draft picks
over
the last decade.
I know.
You can make a case Benedict Mathurin might be one of the best already.
I know.
Like top 10 draft. I mean, even the 6th overall pick. It's just not a given.
It is crazy the amount. We did this years ago, Indy Star, Kevin. Once you get outside of the top 5, your ability to find like a star, as I mentioned, drops significantly. From 5 to 6.
1,000%. 1,000%.
But I say that because when they're going over money and pay and all those things, they're going to think about how you might not be in that upper echelon. And really, my biggest thing is not that I don't think Bennedict Mathurin is a good player. My biggest thing is that if you want to get back to title contention and you want to get back to, that as quickly as possible with the healthy Halliburton, again, as I've said for a couple weeks now, it's got to be Walker or Mathurin becoming a star. And neither to this point, I'm not saying that they're busts, but to this point, they haven't proven that they're at that level.
Could you imagine 1 month ago tonight, the Pacers are in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and let's just play out a Mathurin trade, hypothetical, and 1 month later, no Halliburton for this coming season.
Oh, Lord.
Turner's gone, and Mathurin's gone.
When you put it like that, it does sound kind of bleak. I can, because 2 of the 3 things have already happened.
Yeah, I know. It is wild. It's wild. People started to trickle in. The great Casey Vallier from Colts Radio in the house. Colts training camp is starting to get underway. Again, report day from Grand Park. We are live here, and we are scheduled to have Kenny Moore II join us a little bit later in the show. Practice times will commence 10 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday afternoon as well. We got all your coverage. On the other side, what was that Carly Ursay-Gordon answer? I think Colts fans will like to hear. We'll share that coming up next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We're calling Westfield home on this Tuesday morning. We will do that all week long here on the Fan Morning Show. And Monday and Tuesday of next week, it is a picture-perfect Tuesday here. Report day for the Colts and training camp. Kenny Moore II scheduled to join myself, Kevin Bowen, and James Boyd. Thank you to Cam, on-site engineer. Mark Dykton back in studio. We're right next door to the Indy 11 headquarters. So, Mark, let's go ahead and give away the pair of tickets. That's this Saturday night against Tulsa. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The Jägermeister Cup. So, pair of tickets to Saturday night at Carroll Stadium. So, 317-239-1070. We'll have tickets all week long.
Boy, I could use a little shot of Jaeger just to really get the
I was going to say, do you only bust out the crack of the beer at Carb Day? Is that just a one-time, one-year thing?
Honestly, I thought about busting out had the Pacers won it all on that Monday morning. I think
that would have been, yeah.
I went to a couple liquor stores. I couldn't find the Pacers beer. I'm like, so many people had already
bought
it.
I was going to say, honestly, the demand was probably very, very high, my friend.
Demand was very high. So we'll give away a pair of tickets, fast fingers for that, Indy 11 and Tulsa coming up Saturday night, 317-239-1070. Again, report day here. I did think the Carly Ursay-Gordon answer that fans will want to hear. We'll share that in just a second. Couple of news items around the NFL. Trey Hendrickson not reporting to Bengals training camp. Adam Schefter had that report here just a few minutes ago. James, this has been a very public back and forth. Boy, Cincinnati Bengals, no shortage of entertainment here in their offseason. I don't think a huge surprise on that. Didn't we see this from Zach Martin a couple years ago? You know, handful of days missed and then ended up getting it all back with this contract. So I don't think it's the end of the world. It's July 22nd, but I would say this one has been, again, much more publicly back and forth than, like, for example, that Martin one was, whatever that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, the Bengals have a few things on their hands between that and Shamar Stewart and the stadium talks. But if you're Lou Anarumo, are you, like, looking at Chris Ballard like, are we going to do something here? You know, I got his number. You know, I can call him and see, you know, how he's feeling. But I would at least, I mean, I think it's clearly a very long shot to ever happen. But I would definitely kick the tires if I was Chris Ballard.
By the way, shout out to Bob Kravitz right here in front of us. Certainly you know the name full well. Bob, an outstanding golf outing yesterday over at the Country Club of Indianapolis, raised nearly $100,000 for ALS. Just outstanding work by Bob and so many people involved. Obviously, it's just a horrific disease. So great work from Bob Kravitz yesterday. And company over there at CCI, a beautiful golf course, I must say, and a lot raised for ALS. So thank you to Bob Kravitz for that. Again, coming up, Kenny Moore II going to join us here in a little bit. James, we've had this discussion certainly in the Chris Ballard era, and I think the discussion at times has shifted to ownership. How much money should and will the Colts spend in free agency? That has been obviously a big hot-button topic, and this year we saw really a total 180. We saw Chris Ballard acting in ways that we've never seen Chris Ballard act in regards to the money spent. Really, I would say specifically to Mooney Ward, Travarius Ward, and Cam Bynum.
Yes.
Daniel Jones' contract certainly stands out number-wise, but, you know, that's kind of the cost of, you know, getting a somewhat competent quarterback. Mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier J.J. Stankiewicz did a great job in his Colts.com piece with Carly Ursay-Gordon. And in that piece, she was asked specifically about, or I should say she brought up specifically the whole debate around free agency. Mm-hmm. And the piece reads as this. She did make it clear the Colts won't have to choose between drafting/developing and free agency. This is the direct quote here from Ursay-Gordon. It's not an either or. We have to do both. To me, James Boyd, I think when Colts fans see or hear that quote that I just shared, you've got the crowd standing ovation gift. Is that like the Oscars where they're all like standing? You know that gift that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know.
Some might say it's about bleeping time. Welcome to 21st century, you know, roster building, et cetera, but yeah. I think fans would be in unison and agreeing on that.
Yeah, I think so too. Honestly, a lot of it I think has to do with the fact that, you know, you're just sick of feeling like you're behind the trends or you're behind the moves or you're always one move away. Like, you know, how do you marry what all of your decisions, all of your opportunities to get better with real tangible results. I mean, and that's what they've been chasing is, you say you're going to do one thing, you say this is going to work, and every year we get to this point of the year and we're asking Chris Ballard about last season and why it didn't work. And so I can certainly, empathize with that.
Do you take that a step further and read that as a con on the Carly Ursay-Gordon evaluation sheet of Chris Ballard? Or am I reading too much into that?
I don't know if you're reading too much. I just don't know her well enough to know. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to be able to tell you. I feel like with the late Jim Irsay, we could always kind of, because he had given us so much information.
Yeah, 30 years of
over the it's like, okay,
president.
this is what it means when he says this. I'm just not so sure with her, but I do think that I guess I'll say this confidently. She is going to have meticulous notes on what you did and didn't do. And I don't doubt that for a second from what I've heard internally and even hearing some of the players on the record saying she's someone who's very, very detailed. So you have to think that your shortcomings, all of that is going to be on your resume regardless of if it should be at the top of the resume or whatever. It's going to be on there regardless.
I'm going to guess training camp number 41. Mike Chappell, you want to throw that headset on right there in front of you? Cam, do we have Mike Chappell loud and clear? The Dean joins us here live at Grand Park. Is that right, Chap? Is it 41?
Yeah, this is the 42nd year, but 41 with COVID. So that's either
COVID camp starts or counts. I mean, we all were at the complex.
You know how Chap is. He's got an asterisk.
Then it's 42. It's either a blessing or a curse. I don't know which it is. So I've been to more camps than James been on the earth.
This is true.
Which is
Chap,
not a good
me
thing.
too. I'm not that old. Come on now. I'll be 36 in September just because I got a hair transplant. Doesn't mean I'm older than 42 here.
That's one thing. As long as I've lived, I've never had a hair transplant.
Well,
I've been blessed with some decent hair, but
you got a great head of hair there.
You have some nice lettuce up there.
I know some people. If it ever goes for you here.
There you go.
The great Mike Chappell live here at Grand Park. Again, Colts players starting to trickle in.
People, as you know, people should really appreciate this because this is not my time of day.
No, not at all.
I had to set the alarm for 5:50, and that's obscene for you people.
This is pretty funny. Chap, the other day in our YouTube chat, we had somebody who was asking, like, man, Chap only goes on, like, the noon shows or with JMV. And, why doesn't he come on with you guys? He's always on with Jake and JMV. And I was like, Chap is not up this early. And you're like, are you sure even at 9 o'clock? I was like, Chap is not up this early. Like, how many times?
We are respecting his wishes. Trust me.
And for those listening now, wondering why he's on here, it's because the players are talking here in a few minutes. And so you didn't show up for us. You showed up for Kenny Moore and others.
I think someone was asking me the other day, how many years have you been hosting the morning show? I think this is my 4th year. Like, it started right now, like just before training camp. And I have probably asked Chap to come on, I'd say probably 2 or 3 times. And it's for very specific reasons why, and I always preface by, I want to be very respectful of your beauty sleep, but we could really use you like at 9:45.
So it's the 9 o'clock hour, which I can do, 8:30ish. So that's it. But no, I'm a guy that stays up till 12:30, 1 o'clock because there'll be a time when I'll have plenty of time to sleep. So, but no, I was listening to you guys on the way in, and I wish I was up more often to listening to you guys, but this is who I am.
Well, we appreciate the kind words. We appreciate you you joining us again. We're live here in Westfield. Players should start meeting the media here shortly. We let off the show, Chap, and you would be the perfect person to ask with just this general thought of, as we sit here right now, the futures of the pillars of the franchise are very much in question. When is the last time you've walked into a season where you have legitimate questions about, will the GM be here next year? Will the quarterback be here next year? Will the head coach be here next year? Because I said to James, in the Grigson-Pagano era, you never doubted Andrew Luck. Of course he's still going to be the quarterback. It's just, do you need to go find a new head coach or a new GM for him? Obviously, in the late Caldwell-Polian year, Peyton's neck really contributed, right?
So you're talking 97.
Think about that.
I know.
It's 2025.
Right.
And we sit here right now, and I think it's just I bring that up to say it's such an odd time for the fan base.
Right.
That they have not some NFL franchises, they feel this not annually, but more frequently than
for Mark's Bears, it's been like that for a little while.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, so you would say not,
but a deserved
I'm just hey, as someone who went through all the dark days with you, brother, I'm just saying.
So you would say 97, the last time?
Well, in 2011, we knew there was going to be a change because of Peyton's situation, where they went from they just clean house. So, but no, you're right. That's the one thing this team has been blessed with is continuity, which Jim Irsay, that's what he wanted, and for the most part, they've had that. The 2022 was a aberration and a circus and all that stuff. But no, this is I keep trying to figure out what's the best description of this season, and consequential. We don't know. Someone asked me when the Daughters took over, well, will there be any seismic changes? Well, no, not in May. I mean, you're not. But this season's going to depend. Will dictate what happens. Will they come here in January and say, we're in a good place, we're headed in the right direction, or will they say we got to blow this up? And maybe you agree, but I don't see them tweaking things at the end of the season. It'll be, if they're going to change it, there will be changes. Whether GM, head coach, and players, they've got a half a dozen, 8 players, significant players in contract years. I guess depends on what you've got with your franchise at the top, on who you resign. I re-signed Bernard Ryman regardless because you need a left tackle. After that, I don't know. You're going to wait. I think you're going to kind of wait to see Alec Pierce and Nick Cross. So if they have success, and I don't know how you want to define success, playoffs, 10-7, almost make it. Maybe you run everybody back because you believe you're in a good place, but that depends on the quarterback.
So I'll throw you the question that Kevin threw me. If Anthony Richardson I believe this actually came from one of our listeners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If Anthony Richardson has a great season and he shows you he's a guy, but they don't make the playoffs, is everybody back?
It would. I would need to see what else would happen for what you said, for them not to make the playoffs.
That's fair.
Let's say your first-year defensive coordinator has growing pains.
Right. Well, okay. Or Jonathan Taylor, heaven forbid, gets hurt. But if AR starts 15 games, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
It is. And that maybe would show you that you're headed in the right direction, and then you're buying into another year. So, but I hope that happens. I'm not confident that happens. All we've got is 2 years of a bio to go on, and it's not 2 good years. He started 15 games, 17 misses by start, and the 2 benchings.
Yeah.
So and then you got Daniel Jones. We're going to be talking quarterbacks. You guys are all year.
Absolutely.
When he names the starter for now, and then the opener, and then as soon as that starter struggles, how quick you're going to go to the next guy, and it's not good. The 2 areas you don't want to have, in my mind, open competition in camp is quarterback and kicker. And they've got competition at both spots, and I think that's not healthy for your team. But the quarterback, this is where they are because of how Richardson's played and not played.
Training camp number 42 for that man, that would be Mike Chappell, the dean here, is up at an ungodly hour for him on this Tuesday morning.
One thing, if you get early enough, you miss a lot of the traffic.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling him.
Sure.
So there is a plus side, although I couldn't. I don't know how you guys do this every day. I can't. I'm too old for this.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time here. Again, Kenny Moore II going to join us here in a little bit. It is report day at Grand Park. Chap, the greatest strength on this roster is where?
Ooh, defensive receiver. I like the receiver group.
Boy, and when's the last time you said that?
God, I know. And I'm sure they get tired here. I still wish they had the guy, Jamar Chase. There's only 6 or 7 of those guys, Nico Collins. But I like the group. I do like the group. If A.D. Mitchell can do something better this year, it'll be a lot better. Defensive line, again. I'm not buying in on the offensive line yet.
Me either.
You're replacing Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, and that's huge. And you're relying on Gonzalez and either Bortolini or Ball State's own Danny Printer, and I just think that you're asking a lot. and the offensive line needs to play well. Those two areas jump out. Running back's a strength because of Jonathan Taylor, but he's going to miss a couple games because running backs do.
Yeah.
I like this roster. I think it's got deficiencies. I mean, linebacker beyond Zaire Franklin, who? Jalen Carlisle, yes, but beyond that, I mean, and you've got to play linebackers. So I like the roster. I think it's a playoff level roster if the quarterback just plays good, not great, but good, and I'm skeptical.
The player who is most poised for a breakout season, or needs to have a breakout season.
Good question. Latu, year 2, he needs to step up.
I'm with you on that.
I was going to say Kwity Paye, but I think we've seen who Kwity Paye is, and that's not a knock. I've always compared him to Jabal Sheridan, and Jabal was pretty good.
Yeah.
He's just not that.
He's just not what you would want from a first-round defensive end.
And what it's going to take to re-sign him next year, which probably won't happen. So, but they need one of the pass rushers to step up. Other than that, I mean, a receiver, again, Mitchell, his rookie season was just not good. And you go back and look at a lot of early draft pick rookie seasons weren't that great. Reggie Wayne didn't really emerge until year 3, in part because of Marvin Harrison, and Peyton had a love affair with Marvin Harrison, where that's who he threw to.
But not a bad person to love in that aspect.
No question. But I'm sure there were times Reggie felt like he was the third wheel, and he was. But the two or three players, and I posted, I think you did something similar. I posted my most indispensable players, and it's Bernard Ryman and Jonathan Taylor, and I'm trying to think who the other guys I had.
I had Zaire Franklin high. I know I might be in the minority of that, but
he was my next group.
Look at the depth of that in that room, champ.
And that's why. And that's also nearly making it was Braden Smith. But, DeForest Buckner is a guy they have trouble playing without.
Yeah.
But, again, I like the roster, but we're going to get so tired of talking about the quarterback play. But this is where everything would fall back to that. But they've got some good areas, and they got some good players. Michael Pittman's going to be poised for a big season after enduring his back issues last year. So, very interesting season upcoming. I hope that the quarterback thing is allowed to unfold without any hitches. We don't even know right now, I don't think, whether AR is going to be fully ready to go tomorrow. So, he's been throwing, but what's that mean?
Right. When does the 50-50 split restart? That's my question.
Right. And until it does, well, Jones gets a chance to continue to inch forward. So it'll be interesting. And again, this is preseason is short. 13 practices up here, the 3 games. I would think that Shane Steichen will know his starter after 2 preseason games, and then they can let Riley Leonard and Jason Bean play in that third preseason game.
No. The starter needs to play in that third one, chap.
God, but you got to know who it is.
These are 2 bad, inconsistent quarterbacks. They need real game reps.
I understand
especially
that.
If you got a new center, too.
I understand that. But if you know who your guy is, if you know it's –
play him a half. Treat it like a dress rehearsal.
Okay, I'll go with that. But then he goes out there and he gets hurt, and I'm one of those I hate to see a guy get dinged up. But your point's very valid.
Yeah, that's when you come back to Kevin and say, I've done this for 40-plus years. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
I need to bow down to the GOAT.
But again, no, your point's very valid, and you shouldn't be in this position. You should know what you have with Anthony Richardson. You don't. The highs are incredibly high, and the lows, 47.7% completions. That's totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see. Daniel Jones, I'm curious. When he had a good team around him in 2021, was it? They make the wild card, and they win a wild card game at Minnesota, I think it was. So, but again, he was dumped for a reason, and that's going to be the overriding storyline throughout camp and into the season. But I hope we get a chance to write about the rookies. Tyler Warren, I'm looking forward. We saw what we did in the offseason work, and God, he caught everything. They threw him on the ball all the time, and he caught it all the time. So really curious where they finally got a tight end who can be productive. I mean, it's not since Jack Doyle they had a guy like that. So very interesting training camp.
You know that voice? That is the legend, the Beech Grove Hornets. He is Mike Chappell, and he is live with us here. Report day for Colts training camp. Not only Kenny Moore the second going to join us.
Kenny the Moore.
Kenny the Moore. Shows you I need some training camp here. Kenny Moore the second will join us, and so will Josh Downs a little bit later in the show. So check both of those out live with us here in Westfield. Chap, thank you. And Mark Dykton, let's go ahead and hit a morning check.
Thanks, guys.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, James, let's go to the Big Apple. Tonight there will be no Caitlin Clark for the second time where Fever Liberty have played on the road. Just like we saw just before the All-Star game, that right groin injury will keep her out. I am curious, the fact that they're in New York medically, does she see anybody out there? Not to like, oh yeah, Tyrese Halliburton had the New York doctor.
Yeah.
But still, obviously that's a hotbed for the medical world, so we'll see how the Fever play without her tonight. They are an 11.5-point underdog.
The race is on. They are 12-11. They're the 6th seed right now. The top 8 teams in the WNBA make the playoffs, and they're facing the number 2 seed Liberty tonight. So as Kelsey Mitchell said yesterday after practice, you know, there's no time to waste. You got to start stacking some wins.
Vegas Thursday, the Sky Sunday. That's what the week looks like here for the Fever. All right, Major League Baseball yesterday. Reds lose, Cubs lose, Cardinals won, Brewers 11 in a row, I believe it is now, and some dude tried to catch a foul ball in Wrigley and fell into the basket.
I think
that was rough.
I think the Brewers are on like a 31-12 heater right now. Like they are red hot.
Crazy.
It's insane. Lose some damn games, please. Tell Joel Erickson for his squad to lose a few games.
They are an absolute machine. Other news items, really, for me, I forgot Phillip Rivers wasn't yet retired. James, did you know he was? So does Hall of Fame
I knew he was retired. He just told us that, but I knew.
Does the Hall of Fame clock start now, Chap, or does it go to the last game he played? Last year he played.
Nah,
okay.
see, we should veto that. There should be a rule that if you wait this long to retire, you can't be getting into the Hall of Fame, you know, shortly thereafter.
So the last game he did play was with the Colts.
Yes.
And that 2020 playoff game, a great game against the Bills.
I saw that news yesterday, and I thought I read an Onion article. I'm like, this can't be accurate, right? Like, he's been retired.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I was kind of like, wait a minute here. Naheem Hines, speaking of the Chargers, he will try and revive that career. Hopefully he gets it going. Good dude there with the Chargers. Big Ten Media Day out in Vegas. Kurt Signetti will take the mic later today. We'll see how appointment audio that is from him. And last night, James, sounded like you and I both were tuning into the TBT. Great game, unfortunately, for the Butler team. All good dogs. They lose. But that Fail Harder team, they've got a lot of Indy connections. I know the telecast has talked about Kyle Guy's involvement with that team, but Darius Adams from UIndy, Jesse Bingham from UIndy, Kobe Webster, the Park Tudor kid. That Jordan Walker, is that the Jordan Walker from Cathedral? Somebody needs to message me if that is him. I think he started at Morehead State maybe. He had the game-winning bucket last night, but that Elam ending was awesome last night. Butler almost came back and got it done there. They had 2 3-point looks at it for the win.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like pickup basketball. You know, next bucket wins, and there is a certain level of excitement that comes with, like, the walk-off factor of the Elam ending. So enjoyed it, and I will certainly be tuning in to more TBT.
So we will certainly keep you posted on that front. And, of course, today it is Report Day live from Grand Park. Practice 10 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Kenny Moore II, Josh Downs scheduled to join us. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd live here in Westfield.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Oh, man.
Can we clip that on YouTube?
I was going to say, please explain what you just did.
What do you mean?
They're doing the young jog. It's going down.
now.
Come on, Mark. You
Boy.
can't play the banger and not expect us to dance.
You think
And if
Jeff
the
would have
camera
known what the
would've-
hell you were doing?
No,
If the camera would have had Mike Chappell on it, he would have been doing the same thing. You can clip that here on this Tuesday morning. We're live in Westfield. It is report day for Colts training camp. Players should be starting to trickle over to the media area here shortly. Josh Downs, Kenny Moore the second. Who you got in a one-on-one right there? 3rd and 6.
Ooh, that is a very good question. I might go Josh Downs, advantage offensive player.
Ooh, you going to tell Kenny that?
Yes, just to rile him up a bit.
We got to ask each of them that. Honestly, when you think about one-on-one matchups here, like Quentin Nelson against either Grover or DeForest Buckner always comes to mind. But a good third down rep, or even just a one-on-one rep, because you know when they get into one-on-ones, James, as you know full well, you know Kenny Moore waits for Josh Downs, and I'm sure Travaris Ward will wait for Michael Pittman Jr. or Alec Pierce, et cetera, et cetera. That might be the best good versus good matchup outside of Nelson versus a Buckner. I would say 23 versus number 1.
Yeah, especially for camp purposes, because you can't really get down and dirty in the trenches during training camp, but I feel like the skill position guys get a chance to shine, and it wouldn't be like 9 to 10 or whatever, 9 out of 10 for one player or the other. I think it'll be pretty even. But advantage Josh Downs just because who's throwing him the ball? See that matter of fact, I might renege on what I just said. I might go Kenny Moore the second because I don't know who's throwing the ball and if it's going to be on time. Do we count it as a win if he just gets open? I don't think that we should do that.
Unfortunately, I think you're true on that. Again, myself, Kevin Bowen, James Boyd up here at Grand Park. Mark Dyson back in studio. We'll be up here all week long. We shift the practices starting tomorrow. Those are 10 a.m. start times. I believe Colt City opens up at 9 a.m. So come over and say hey to us. We just talked with Mike Chappell last segment, and the name AT Mitchell got brought up, and Chapp and I very understandably mentioned the depth at wideout and just how that room looks different. It's been a while since we've said that. What do you think playing time looks like for AT Mitchell? And I think it's a bit of an unfair question, I guess. Let me to start there, because I think what happens out here, what happens in the preseason I thought in the spring, James, for spring ball, he was reliable.
Yeah, he was good.
That is not a word we used for him last fall.
No.
But this spring, he was reliable. Now, spring reliability and fall reliability are two different animals there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess where does he factor in? Because other positions, I'd say, boom, there is ready-made playing time right there. If he were a tight end, for example.
Oh, absolutely.
Besides Tyler Warren, there's tons of playing time available. If he was a backup running back, tons of playing time available. But at wideout, I mean, who are you taking off the field? Pittman, Pierce, or Downs?
Yeah, and that's the question I have. It's because the guys you're trying to go up against are pretty good, and keeping in mind or keeping in line with the thinking that I had with quarterback, how many times are you going to throw it? I mean, there's still going to be, in my opinion, you should still be a run-first team in theory because of the dual threat capabilities of Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, because you have Jonathan Taylor, because, you have, some guys on that offensive line, particularly in Quentin Nelson. When you run his way, good things tend to happen. So I'm very curious about that, Kevin, and I can't give you a straight answer, but I would like to say, beyond just the amount of plays itself, you just want to see more connectiveness, because there were just times where when he did get a couple of reps, when you're a wide receiver, you might get 3 balls thrown your way, you might get 2, you might whatever. There were so many times we would be in the press box, Kevin, we'd be like, does he know what's going on? Is he on the same page?
It was like Reggie Wayne was waiting for him on the sideline.
Exactly. So, I mean, honestly, if he wants to have more plays, you got to be able to, capitalize on the few you do get throughout a game, because there will be opportunities. It's not like Alec Pierce is going to play every single snap, because especially knowing how many go balls Alec Pierce runs, but you got to be able to take advantage of that.
I think another question, I know it's not necessarily the sexiest question in the world, but, and we have all hit on this, and again, Chap did it last segment, but Bernhard Raimann and Braden Smith, they're so indispensable. They're so key.
Yeah.
You just have to have them in the lineup, because I worry about that backup swing tackle. And I get that's probably a question James at 32 teams would say the same thing.
Yeah.
But with Raimann, and much more so with Braden Smith, there has been a health question. And if that arises again, right now, Matt Gonzalez, who the thought was swing tackle, he's your right guard.
Right.
So now the question becomes, is it Blake Freeland, who has had, I would say, a very inconsistent start to his NFL career, and then Jalen Travis is a rookie 4th-round pick out of Iowa State. I think there's a lot of intrigue in him, but he's also only played big-time college football for 1 year. He was at Princeton those other years. So, boy, that swing tackle, you have so many questions at quarterback, you can't afford to have questions up front. That, I think, is a concern or just a question that I would have.
Absolutely, and I feel like having covered both professional basketball and professional football, the contingency plans you have to have for football are just so much higher because of the injury rate and injury factor. And, to your point, Kevin, you don't have Matt Gonzalez to slide over to either of those tackle spots if someone goes down. I believe he started 8 games last year, but all 8 of them were at the combined tackle spots. It was not at right guard. And so now that he's moved inside, talking to Tony Sperano Jr. earlier this spring, he was telling us, no, this isn't a experiment. We want him to be at right guard, want him to stay inside, and if that's the case, then he's no longer an option to go back outside, in my opinion, because you don't want to be shuffling your offensive line too much. So it is something to think about. And honestly, I feel like if we gave Chris Ballard in that front office some truth serum, they'd probably tell you that Blake Freeland is a miss, considering that he was, I believe, a 4th-round pick. And even in the preseason last year, he looked unplayable. And we all knew coming out of that preseason that, there's no way this guy's going to be a backup to anybody. But considering how they have a lack of depth there, he, I guess, has to be in that mix, which is a bit concerning.
Mark, how's my rhythm on the video?
You be the judge. I just tweeted it out.
Oh,
sorry, I got a frog in my throat.
Okay.
I just tweeted it out. I said,
I thought you were eating some cluster truck.
No, not yet. No. But Evan, speaking of cluster truck, Evan was the one that sent me the clip. He's multifaceted, multi-talented.
Oh, Evan, Cheryl. I mean, I honestly can say this. I don't think there's a thing that I do worse in life than have rhythm or singing.
I think you look pretty good.
But I felt like that video, sir. I'm going to send that to my wife.
Yeah.
I think she'd be proud of me.
She should be.
Either
Thank
that
you,
or
Evan,
she'll share it with the family.
What
so
are
the
you
next
doing?
reunion you have is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
No, we're introducing Max Bowen into the culture of young jock.
So Mark has – go ahead, Mark. Share your tweet here because I thought the caption was excellent.
I sent the video of you guys doing the young jock, and I said when the first shot of Jaeger hits on the adults-only cruise. No kids.
I didn't even read the friggin' caption. That's hilarious.
That's what it is.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, sent to Maddie. Thoughts on my rhythm, question mark here. We'll keep you posted on that. I'm sure everyone's on pins and needles. We are live here in Westfield. It is a absolutely gorgeous Tuesday morning. Training camp has started. Chris Ballard will meet the media around noon today, and live here we'll have Kenny Moore II and Josh Downs join us a little bit later. Thank you for tuning in to the Fan Morning Show right here on 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, live here at Grand Park. It is Colts training camp. Kenny Moore II scheduled to join us here in a few. Mark, I think what we'll do here is maybe go a little bit abbreviated. Kenny's going to start here with the media scrum and then make his way over to us, and us would be myself, Kevin Bowen, and James Boyd. Thank you to Cam, on-site engineer, for getting us locked and loaded here, and we will be with you all week long, and Monday and Tuesday. Those are your morning practices. Josh Downs scheduled to join us coming up 9 o'clock hour. Mark, how does that sound, by the way, as we program on live radio here?
Sounds beautiful. I could have done it better myself.
All right, so once
you want to hit the young jock when Kenny Moore comes over again?
I think Kenny would have given me a decent grade on that, right, James?
I think he would.
Okay, all right. I thought
I don't know if Kenny Moore is much of a dancer, but he would appreciate you having a little culture.
I'm sure Maddie's loving me texting her. She's trying to get the kids ready and to go to work, and here she is, having to field my text about, hey, how do you think my rhythm looked with young Jock? So we'll hit you with that. Again, it is report day here at training camp. You look around the NFL, and I guess we'll find out from Chris Ballard. Occasionally you do get a storyline of, hey, X player got hurt, train in the offseason, but unless I'm missing somebody, there's no one that we think is a slam dunk to open up on PUP, right?
No. I think that any PUP.
Like Samson Ebukam, maybe, if he's not all the way back from the torn Achilles. Yeah. And again, PUP, you can be pulled off that list at any point.
Right.
Just because you start camp on PUP doesn't mean you'll be on it for X amount of days. Zaire Franklin would be a name to watch. Jalen Carlisle. I'm trying to think back to the spring, James, some of these guys that missed time due to surgeries or injuries.
Yeah, I think those were the main ones, and I believe I might have been telling, was it Chap during the break, but Daniel Scott. I mean, not a super high priority for me or I would think a lot of people on the beat, but I believe he missed like the last part of spring practice. And for those who are, kind of curious, I think Daniel Scott might have been a draft pick, 2 or 3 years ago? I know he hasn't played in the NFL because he had an Achilles injury one year and an ACL another year. So, where is he at? Because you hear Chris Ballard talk so highly of the guy, but we haven't seen him play a single snap in the NFL.
All right, Mark, let's go ahead and hit a break here. Kenny Moore II's about to meet the media, and so if he talks to the media for about 5 minutes, then hopefully we'll be back with the longtime Pro Bowl Colts cornerback. So let's plan on that. Kenny Moore II on the other side. This is the Fan Morning Show here on a Tuesday.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
And we are back here live at Colts training camp in Westfield. Kenny Moore II going to join us here in just a second. He is wrapping up his media session as we speak. James Boyd's over there in the tent among the media throng. Josh Downs going to join us here in the 9 o'clock hour. And in all seriousness, I think one of the best battles you see, and we've seen now for the last couple of years. And Josh Downs really had this presence as a rookie, but as he's grown into a third-year player, you get into these one-on-one drills, and you get Josh Downs opposite Kenny Moore II. That is a must-watch. Two, I think, very good to elite players at their respective positions. So looking forward to that. Again, 10 a.m. tomorrow, practice gets underway. Reminder, tickets, if I'm not mistaken, I should double-check all this. I'm pretty sure tickets remain free for the morning practices, but you do need a ticket. So go online, Colts.com. Check that out. I want to say parking's like $5. I think prices increase a little bit more for the afternoon and evening practices, but it's a great time to come out here to Colts camp, and you can check out Colts City, and you can see that kind of behind us if you're on the YouTube stream, a little bit of that. And so it is a great time here in Westfield.
I've said it before, even though it costs a little bit now, it's still the cheapest and closest access you will get to the Colts all season long. You can't beat that access.
I guess you can say I'm carrying the Colts water. I think this might be the best thing the Colts do, frankly, is having open access to training camp. It's unbelievable fan access that really teams around the league just don't get. So Kenny Moore II going to join us here in just a minute. And, again, Josh Downs coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll be out here all morning long. Chris Ballard will meet the media around noon today. So we'll have some updates for you, certainly with Jake. Noon to 3, and John will have you covered from 3 to 6, and we'll play some of that audio for you upcoming. Mark, any big Bears camp news? I think the Bengals have kind of stolen the hour with Trey Hendrickson not reporting for training camp as those contract discussions, or I should say disagreements, continue.
Yeah, Trey Hendrickson reportedly, I mean, his location just says Florida, so it's like, well, that's not near Cincinnati, so – no, that's interesting. As far as the Bears, they start reporting today. I don't think the rookies actually report until Saturday. I could have that completely wrong, but I think they have a little bit of a later start. So players are arriving, but I don't know if they're actually having practice for a little bit. But obviously the big storylines for the Bears just basically, can Caleb Williams, continue to look impressive in year 2? What's that look like with Ben Johnson? Obviously a lot more tools with the offensive line and all that stuff, the revamped offensive line. So curious to see how that all plays out, but expectations a bit high in Chicago with the arrival of Ben Johnson and now with Caleb Williams under his wing for year 2.
Boy wonder, Ben Johnson. Him and Arch Manning, the two most hyped individuals in sports right now. So we'll see how things go up there in the Windy City for him. A reminder, Colts will have their joint practice with the Packers. So just one joint session here at Grand Park. That is August 14th. That's not twice. Marcus played that today.
You mentioned them. I have to play it. It's like required, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, you could play some Jerry Jones sound today, too. Those are quite the comments from Jerry Jones yesterday in regards to Micah Parsons.
I don't have the
and that contract.
Jack with you today.
There you go.
That contract situation playing out. One thing when Kenny Moore joins us here in just a second that I want to hit on is I was listening to the start of his media session, and this kind of goes back to some of that Juju Brents audio we played late last week, but he was asked to describe Lou Anarumo's defense, first-year defensive coordinator coming over, and he mentioned that he feels like the Colts will be more proactive defensively. That's what Kenny just said, and I think that is a great word to describe it. I probably have said the exact opposite for many of the Gus Bradley years, and even at times that Matt Eberflus era, is I thought the Colts were too reactionary defensively, and basically you're hoping and praying that at some point over a 10-play 80-yard drive that the offense screws up. Whatever, they make a penalty, they throw an incompletion, but you don't dictate enough. You don't try to put them in positions, I think, of conflict enough, and I just think this defense will try to do more of that. Now, again, will they do it right away? Will it be super successful? That all remains to be seen. Obviously, you still have to execute that aspect of it, but I think that area of the Colts defense, whether that is in disguising, whether that's playing more press man, whether that's being just generally a little bit more attacking via pressure up front, or again, via man coverage, or pressing opposing wideouts on the outside. That to me, when I hear the word proactive, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Not playing 7 yards off and giving up easy in-rhythm completions. Too often, the Colts have allowed quarterbacks to get into rhythm. Very similar rhythm to what I had for young Jock earlier, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I would like Kenny Moore to give an evaluation of that. Has Maddie gotten back to you yet on that either?
She is not. No.
She's probably going to hit ignore on that notification.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed on that there. So, yeah, we'll see about that. By the way, Kenny Moore II, he's been a very busy man this offseason. Did a little Brewers spring training. I know he's over in Germany for the draft. He's got to be happy about Pato Award getting a couple W's here back-to-back weeks. So I think I said this to you guys yesterday when we found out we're going to have Kenny on the show. Pound for pound, I don't think there's a better athlete on the team. Like if they did a sport decathlon, if they did, or I guess a sport Olympics would probably be the best way to put it, I think Kenny Moore II would be one of the best athletes on that team, period, here. So, again, Kenny going to join us here in just a minute, live here at Grand Park, Colts training camp. Josh Downs, scheduled a little bit later in the 9 o'clock hour, but the man himself is about to join us here as James Boyd gets back with us. Kenny Moore II, year 9, Kenny?
Year
Do I have
9.
that right?
Shit, where are we? Where's the time going?
We might have to dump that one, Mark. How's the body?
The body's great. Body's great.
How much is training different for you? Like June, July, when you hit summer vacation, what did it look like in 2017, 2018? What does it look like now, 2025?
I think just as a young player in the league, you were just trying to figure out what exactly my body need, where do I want to go, as far as, how does my body feel? I think I was feeling worse during that time of 2017. I mean, it sounds crazy, but, you're going straight from college to the draft to, obviously the combine and everything, straight to OTAs, mini camps and all that stuff. So didn't really get much of a break, but obviously year 9, I've got some breaks after the season, spring training, and then you get another break after that. So over the years, I began to learn what exactly I need for my body to be ready for day 1 of training camp.
Kenny, what's the biggest difference or growth you've kind of seen in yourself from, being undrafted till year 9 and, earning a couple contracts? Like, what's been the biggest overall lesson that you've kind of taken away from this game so far?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the first thing that popped into my head was management and managing my mental, my physical, my emotional. And, every year you play in the league or every year that kind of goes by, somehow you begin to know more people, you begin to do more stuff, you gain more interest, you find out what I like and dislike. So I think managing all those things to make sure you can go back out and perform at a high level and make sure you can go out and delegate all this time to other people, the family, yourself. The balance, the management of all those things is very important. So I think for me personally, the management space of my life has been definitely most important.
Along those lines of having like other responsibilities, I know you're involved with the NFLPA as far as the Colts and things like that. How much do you pay attention to what happened this offseason as far as the reports that they were colluding to not give you all guaranteed contracts and things of that nature?
Well, those are things that I'm still learning about. I think those are just ongoing things. Like every week, it's kind of something new coming out. So we'll get to the bottom of it with time. But I'm just not learning about those things in the last couple of weeks or so. It's nothing that I was already aware of in years prior of this one. So I think it's news to everybody. I think business is crazy, obviously, and there's a lot of money that goes into a lot of things around here. And so, that's all I have to say about it.
It's a hell of a story. Undrafted free agent Kenny Moore II has had a great NFL career, and it's year 9 upcoming here for the Colts. He joins us here live at Grand Park. Kenny, what's left on the individual, I don't know if you're a big goal guy, but on the individual list for you to achieve in your NFL career?
Shit, a ring. Sorry, I keep cursing. I think that, left to achieve, I mean, look, the game doesn't owe me anything. It doesn't owe me anything. I just keep working hard. That's it. That's what I owe to myself is hard work, and I got to be. That's all I'm responsible of. That's all I can control is how I approach the game. I truly believe if you love the game, it'll love you back, and I don't want to write myself short or just say I've already done what I was supposed to do. But look, I'm 9 years in. I feel great. My family is happy, and I just feel like I'm winning. I wasn't supposed to be here year 9. I was going into 2 weeks at New England, and I thought I was going to be erased. I thought I was going to be back in Valdosta. I was 2 weeks as a Colt, and I thought I was going to be back in Valdosta from special teams, penalties, and all that BS. So I'm here now, and I feel like I don't know. I kind of own everything that has happened in my career. It's been a great movie so far. So I'm looking forward to channeling everything that I have in me to have a great 9th year in the league. It's kind of crazy to keep saying that, but I'm having a lot of fun. I just really want to win.
You just used the word proactive to describe
Yeah.
how you think this defense will be. Could you expand on that?
Preparation, knowing who you're going against, having a plan, and easily adaptable.
And then, Kenny, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying over here on the other side of the tent when it comes to trying to become a top 5 defense, with the pieces that you all have, the talent you all have on this roster, Lou Anarumo coming in, you talked about winning, off the field and having so much success individually in your career. But as you go into year 9 and kind of knowing, okay, I don't know if I'll play another 9 after this, what's the desire level to just, again, like you said, not be erased and have something that you can look back on and be like, okay, well, this was this year or 2 years or whatever, how many years, we really had something special and we went and did something special?
I don't know. I just feel like my approach to the game is always different. A lot of people weigh their careers off of wins and losses, if I had a ring or not. But I've always approached the game, since my senior year of high school I played this game to have fun. My high school is really good. I saw them winning a lot, even though we got beat first round of playoffs. We had a lot of fun that season, and that kind of transitioned into playing Division II football. I went to a really good program who had just won a national title, and I met a lot of great people, had a lot of great teammates over there in Valdosta State, had a lot of great coaches every single year, had a new defensive system every single year, but somehow we were able to, have some fun, and that just kept me in it, man. That just kept me in it. If it was too much, rah-rah and, we got to do this, then I would have fell out of love with football a long time ago. And then over here in Indianapolis, of course, we definitely want to win. We definitely have a lot to owe to the city of Indianapolis, and we want to get that accomplished. But I've had a lot of fun here in Indy, and honestly, we got to figure out how to have even more fun this year. We got to have fun from the jump, and me individually, that's how I stay in it. That's why, the dances come out, all the handshakes and stuff, because that's the little boy in me that's what I always loved about ball was the dancing, the camaraderie, the partying on the plane. Those are the things that I like to talk about. I don't talk about, third down, at the end of this game I did this, that. That's cool at an appearance or something like that. But if I'm in the backyard with the guys, I'm talking about jumping up with DeForest, after his sack. Those are cool moments for me because that's the little boy. That's what I always saw the game of football as. And so, like the way they talked about Mr. Irsay and how he was the owner and he led the organization as his little boy self, putting them pads on, taking pictures with the guys. That meant a lot to me because that's the same vision that I have for football. That's what I see. And I don't want to ramble on, but that's just my approach. That's why I play the game, is to have fun.
It's a kid's game, right?
It is.
Kenny Moore II with us here. A couple more minutes. We appreciate your time on this report day. We heard some of the members of the coaching staff single out rookie Justin Wally in the spring. Your early impressions of the third-round corner out of Minnesota.
My early impressions, I mean, I think he has everything. He has what it takes to play in this game a long time. He loves football. I can see that. He knows how to play football, and he has the instincts and awareness to be a great player. His ceiling is really high. If I was to pick two guys that I'm really high on, let's say three, that I'm really high on is Adonai Mitchell, Wally, and I really do like Pierce. Yeah. Not just because I go against those guys.
I was going to say, like,
but it was two offensive and one defense.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I guess to that point, what stands out to you about AD Mitchell? And we get it. Like last year, and he's admitted, like, hey, I had to learn how to be a pro. Or
I mean,
learn
it is
all
what
these
it
different
is.
things,
Like,
but
yeah.
But when you line up against this guy in practice,
he has it. I'm saying, like, potential and tool wise, like, he has the tools. Like, I'm excited for him.
We have Josh Downs joining us here in a few
I knew
minutes.
this was coming.
And I think when we talk good on good out here,
Yeah.
there might not be a better matchup than when you two go against each other one-on-ones. If we go best out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, that's opinionated.
Would you agree with that or no?
If it's the best matchup, I'm not sure.
Best out of 7, you, Josh Downs, one-on-one.
We're going to find out here in training camp.
You think Josh will answer it?
I'm not sure.
We'll end with this. You look like a very busy man this offseason, and feel free to fill in any gaps.
Yeah.
You're over in Germany for the draft.
Yep.
Did you do a little Brewers spring training? Did I see that?
I did. Yeah, I got a buddy that I grew up with. He's a pitcher for them.
What was the best thing you did
His name D.O. Hall.
this offseason?
The best thing I did this offseason or with the Brewers spring training?
Well, I mean, feel free to share about the Brewers spring training experience, but
I mean, look, I just love sports. Like, it's just a little boy in me. And so I went out there and I tried to get some batting practice, in the cages and stuff. And I was already a little nervous because when you walk in there and you hear how fast, those pitchers are going, you're just like, all right, this got to be the hardest thing in sports is hitting.
Good for you for even stepping in the cage, man.
yeah.
Jeez.
Between us. And so they got this machine called the traject. And on the traject, you can put up any pitcher and you can put any pitch, any speed, whatever you want. So on the traject, it's this entire screen, and it's digital. The pitcher actually shows up on this thing. So you think you're in the park. And so as soon as he's about to release the ball, the pitch just comes out of this machine. And we put up Paul Skeens. And shout out to Paul Skeens. I could not put a ball in play. But
what was mile per hour?
I mean, it was like 89, mid-90s. All type of pitches. And I made contact, but they were all foul balls.
Hey,
I got to try it
I'm about
again.
to say, at least you made some contact.
is
That was our
contact.
first time. I'm usually better off the second time I do stuff. But, yeah.
If you could be a pro athlete in any other sport, what would it be?
That's tough. That's tough. That's tough. I don't know. Formula One is pretty cool. But it's something about soccer. English Premier League striker. That's me.
Look at that.
Yeah.
See, spoken like somebody that was naturally good at probably every sport growing up.
I feel like one day I was walking back to the media center over here, and I look over, and weren't you kicking with the Indy 11 over there at one
I
point?
did that a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I can say about Kenny Summer, really, whenever I see his social media posts, I'm like, he just be doing stuff.
I just do.
Yeah.
That's the little boy in me, I'm telling you.
I'm like watching the draft. I'm like, there's Bjorn Werner. Oh, wait, there's Kenny Moore. It's the
Hey,
culture out
I wasn't even supposed. I didn't even think I was going to be doing that, to be honest. I just went over there to do some American football academies.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's why I went over there, is to do football clinics and to further their game in American football. As we're trying to, make this whole thing international and stuff like that. Our market is Germany, and we just expanded. We just expanded our markets too to Switzerland and Austria. But I just wanted to go over there to Germany and tap into the market and have some fun doing football. And that opportunity came up, so we did it.
All right, last thing. I lied. Greatly appreciate your time. Driving by Lucas Oil Stadium, What does that mean to see you on the side of that building?
That'll never become normal to me. I'm a graphics guy. I studied mass media and communication arts in college. Whenever I was there present, shout out to VSU. So that whole area is like that's just what I love. I love graphics. I just love. I don't know. That's an achievement as it is. You know, driving by that thing. I live downtown, so my family always take a picture of that every time they see it, and that'll never grow old to me. So I greatly appreciate the Colts doing that.
Again, it is a hell of a story, and it's got another couple chapters to write in it. Kenny Moore II heading into year 9. Kenny, stay healthy, man. We really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
That's a great Kenny Moore II, the pride of Valdosta State. Couple of VSU shout-outs right there from Kenny on report day. Michael Pittman Jr. to Forrest Buckner meeting the media as we speak. James, if you need to slide over there.
Yeah, let me run over there and do
here's
some
Michael
things.
Pittman Jr. right now. I guess maybe they've all wrapped up. Josh Downs going to join us, I think, coming up later in the 9 o'clock hour, and we'll get started with practice coming up 10 a.m. tomorrow here. Morning practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I thought a couple things stood out to me from Kenny Moore, but I'll leave the floor open to you, James. What stood out to you from I thought a guy that just – frankly, loves to tell. I just think he's blossomed in sharing his story.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the better voices on the team, honestly.
Yeah, I think he's actually very, in my opinion, just very, how do I describe it? Self-assured. Like, this isn't, am I good enough to make it to the league, Kenny? It's, oh, I'm that guy, Kenny. And now I have to lead these other guys. And so I think that when he hits on those points about leadership and having to be a part of that room, and you think about it, yeah, Travarius Ward got added to it, but he wasn't the leader of this room last year, and that's still Kenny Moore. So I think that that kind of stood out to me. And also the fact that, you know, on a tangent, the guy is just an all-around athlete. You know, you mentioned doing things he did over the summer. He's like, oh, yeah, I tried to hit off Paul Skeens, you know, from a machine. It's like, who does that besides Kenny Moore? So, you know, and also I guess the couple of dumps that he had on the show. But in reference to trying to win.
Sure.
And at this point, 9 years in, what else is there left to do for Kenny Moore when you've accomplished, you know, what you've accomplished as an undrafted player? You know, you probably want just more of that team success. You want to go on a run and be able to tell those stories about, you know, having some playoff success.
Shout out to Tucker Barnard. He texted me during the interview. He goes, one of the highlights of my major league career is pitching in the big league so that you can face me on the trajectory. Nothing like the position player getting called in to pitch. And so now you're in that machine. I don't know, but Tucker, would I have a chance to maybe foul one off of you as a traject pitcher, if I'm saying that right? But, yeah, Kenny, you know, I thought a couple things stood out. One, you know, certainly when he mentions the 3 players that he thinks, you know, could break out. I think Alec Pierce has already established himself, honestly. I think he's already proven himself at the NFL level. I get he wants to expand his game, but,
yeah,
you know, when you lead the NFL in yards per catch, I think you've done something there. He mentioned Justin Wally, and then he mentioned A.D. Mitchell. And, I mean, James, we hear the A.D. Mitchell from all different parts now. We continue to hear it from people within the organization. Mm-hmm. We hear wideouts describe his game as, you know, there are elements to his game that I want to implement in mine. And then to hear it from an opposing corner. I mean, there's just some God-given talent that A.D. Mitchell has at the wideout position that, frankly, I don't think anyone else in that room has. And you would hear – I remember Michael Pittman Jr. at this very table last year saying if there's something he could take from another wideout in the room, it'd be the ease at which, you know, A.D. Mitchell gets off the ball.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy has talent, and you heard that from Kenny Moore. It's just, can you put it together? We've seen it in the spring. We've seen it out here last year during training camp, but can we see it on Sundays when it matters the most? And I think he has that potential, and Reggie Wayne is quick to say, you know, a lot of you wrote off Alec Pierce, you know, after he kind of struggled as a rookie, and then he took off in his second year, and then obviously last year he had a really big year. So it's not like the guy is 4 or 5 years into his career and we're still asking, what are you doing? It's just, you know, as a second-round pick, usually you got to pop sooner rather than later.
Tucker Barnhart says his pitch was 37 miles per hour. At the time, it was the 10th slowest called strike in the StatCast era. That is excellent.
It's a strike, though.
Beautiful lob. Unbelievable.
That's hilarious.
That is excellent. Josh Downs scheduled to join us here a little bit later in the 9 o'clock hour. Mark, let's go ahead and hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, James is going to go over to listen to Zaire Franklin, so we'll get you through a morning check down here, and then again, should have Josh Downs at some point here coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Tonight, the Indiana Fever are a big ol' underdog against the New York Liberty. Caitlin Clark, we know, is out. An 11.5-point underdog, I believe, is the official line on that. Sounds like she will get further evaluation from doctors and medical people. Who knows? Maybe being in New York, sounds like she will travel the team. Maybe some people out there she will speak with, but the week for the Fever looks like this. At the Liberty tonight, hosts the Las Vegas Aces Thursday, at the Chicago Sky coming up on Sunday, so they return from the All-Star break without their star point guard. Major League Baseball yesterday, Reds lose, Cubs got walloped, Cardinals won, the Brewers are hot, and how about the end of the Phillies game last night, Mark? Did you see that? Catcher's interference for the win?
You don't see that very often at all. So that was a very odd end of the game.
What are the rules on that? You can't
I don't know.
extend your glove past. I mean, I guess is it even with the plate? I have no idea.
I don't know, and I don't know how that's going to change whenever they institute the whole robotic ump thing. Like, how is that ever going to be called? I have no idea. There's a lot of confusing things going on in baseball. That is one of them.
Yeah, I could not agree more on that front. Other items to note, Philip Rivers officially announced his retirement yesterday. I heard Michael Pittman Jr. get asked about that just a few minutes ago. That's how long Michael Pittman Jr., I guess, and Philip Rivers have played. The last time we saw Uncle Phil in the NFL, Michael Pittman Jr. was a rookie in the league, which is kind of crazy to say. Big Ten Media Day out in Vegas. Kurt Cignetti and company will meet the media. What do you think? What type of sig are we going to get?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm curious because, I mean, I'm sure he's still going to be, like, ego going and be a little cocky, but I don't know if someone brings up that non-conference schedule. I'm curious to see what his answer is going to be.
Yeah, we'll see about Kurt Cignetti and fielding those questions, just generally what type of personality we get from him.
We've kind of buried the lead, by the way. Did we mention the Will Levis thing?
Oh, I forgot that happened right after our show ended yesterday. Yeah. So off-season, shoulder surgery, and he's out for the year, right?
Out for the year. No more flopping in Tennessee, I don't think.
No. Now, Cam Ward, of course, they took number 1 overall, and the Colts play them, I want to say it's week 3 and, like, week 8. So you would still think, like, even if Cam Ward had some early struggles, that, like, the Colts still would continue to see him. Maybe sometimes you get late in the year and you're like, you know what? Maybe it's best of our, young quarterback watches. But, yeah, that news yesterday. And I always felt this. I don't know if you feel this too, Mark. Like, if you want to compare Anthony Richardson and Will Levis and how they've approached running in the NFL, like, to me, Will Levis has been reckless. Like, just taking on way too many hits. Whereas I think Anthony Richardson's a little bit more of a, I don't know, safer runner isn't probably the right term. But, like, I don't feel like when he's put himself on the line, it hasn't been as many just, frankly, I think stupid moments like Will Levis has, which, again, probably makes the Richardson injuries even more maddening.
Will Levis kind of reminds me like when Baker Mayfield first came into the league, and he was kind of like that, lowering the shoulder and just taking unnecessary hits, and then eventually the coaching staff's like, start sliding, man. Like, start doing that. I feel like they need to pound that into Will Levis's head, whoever his coaching staff is going to be going forward, whether it's with Tennessee or not. But, yeah, he's been quite reckless in the running game.
And it's probably worth reminding as well, the Will Levis regime in Tennessee, none of them drafted him. Right here in Indy, it's still Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. Whereas in Tennessee, obviously they drafted Cam Ward. But Brian Callahan, their head coach, didn't draft Will Levis. And I think they got the Chiefs assistant GM, if I'm not mistaken, coming over. He obviously did not draft Will Levis either. All right, much more from Colts Report Day at training camp. Zaire Franklin meeting the media now. James Boyd have a little recap of that on the other side. Josh Downs scheduled to join us here a little bit later in the 9 o'clock hour. This is the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 on 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we're back live here in Westfield. It is report day for Colts training camp. Thank you to Kenny Moore II. Fun chat with certainly one of the best stories on this Colts team heading into his 9th year, and that'll be up on the podcast. Josh Downs scheduled to join us in a few. I know James Boyd wrapping up with Zaire Franklin on the other side of the tent here, media session. It did sound like Zaire will not be ready for the start of training camp tomorrow. That was one of the questions that I had for Chris Ballard coming up later today. Again, there was some thought even back in the spring that it might take a few days, potentially even more than a week into camp for Zaire Franklin to be ready. He had surgery on his ankle early May. James Boyd rejoins us now. Sounds like Zaire will not be ready for the first day of practice tomorrow.
Not be ready for the first day of practice and possibly for the foreseeable future. He didn't put a timeline on it. Said he's still progressing. He said he just started running, feeling good as he's running, but obviously there's a big difference between running and playing linebacker in the NFL. So I'm just curious to see, again, what does that linebacker group core kind of look like? We'll get an update later today, probably from Chris Ballard in regard to Jalen Carlisle, but will he be available to start camp? So definitely the most newsworthy item so far regarding camp.
Again, James, we hinted at this a couple of times leading into camp. That news from Franklin is not the most shocking. The Colts thought even back in the spring that he could miss a week or two into training camp. Now, just because it's shocking doesn't mean the news isn't good. When you're installing a new defense, you want the quarterback of that unit out there. And, again, we did the indispensable thing last week, and I had him second on the list because you're going to be looking for your program when you come out here to Grand Park tomorrow for some of these linebacker numbers because they are not household names by any means. And, even Carlisle, James, we haven't crowned him yet. How many games did he even play last year as a fifth-round rookie who was making a position switch as well? So that is certainly a news item that we have here. So, again, Lou Anarumo's early installation of a defense will have some linebackers that you're not used to seeing out there with the starting lineup, and we'll see how early Zaire Franklin gets out there, and I assume, based off what he said, he'll open camp on PUP. I assume he'll be on the physically unable to perform list as we await that a little bit later today.
What else stood out to me about what he was talking about was just his excitement for Lou Anarumo's defense. He was even saying himself, although I haven't been out there just yet in his defense, taking a bunch of notes and being excited about how he'll be utilized in Lou Anarumo's defense. And then him and DeForest Buckner are both talking about how Lou, again, the overarching theme I'm kind of hearing from players is that he doesn't care what your resume looks like. And I think there is a certain level of that every coach has to have. But when you're the new coach, I mean, how much do they really care about what you did last year if I wasn't even here to see you do it, or really pay attention to you do it? I know Clue has probably watched a ton of film on these guys, but, I mean, you kind of have to earn your respect again with the new coach, and that excites Zaire Franklin. That excites DeForest Buckner. And so we'll see where this defense can go, what steps they can do to take a step forward. And honestly, I was looking at some of the statistics, like points allowed-wise, they can't get much worse. I mean, they've been at the bottom of the league the last 3 years, at least 3 years under Gus Bradley. They were in the mid-20s or the high 20s out of the 30-plus teams in the league when it comes to defense and defensive scoring and giving up points. And so if you're, I guess, an optimist, you're thinking, of course they're going to get better because they have no other option but to get better.
We're expecting Josh Downs in about 10 minutes. James, I thought something that Kenny said that kind of caught my ear was when he was over there in the media session, he used the word proactive to describe Lou Anarumo's defense. Before he hopped on air, I kind of offered my own interpretation of that. I said, okay, I think proactive means you're going to play more press man. You're going to disguise a little bit more. You don't want to react to what the offense is doing. Again, you want to be a little bit more of, let's try and dictate to the offense. He's spun it in a different way with us. He's spun it in the preparation way. And as we're sitting here right now, we're even with the end zone on this north practice field. And you can see the letters right there in the end zone. And all 4 end zones here at Grand Park have these core values that Shane Steichen has for his football team. And one of those 4 core values is preparation. And I know I hit on this last week with you, but I think when Kenny said that, it's worth bringing up again. It always surprised me that Shane was such a acceptor of Gus Bradley's defense that lacked preparation from opposing offenses. You know, you hear these opposing
Do you
coaches.
think it lacked preparation, or was that just by design to kind of give them the underneath? I mean, a lot of that stuff.
Right. I guess let me reword that. It's not. I didn't come out how I wanted it to sound. Opposing teams felt like they didn't have to spend a lot of time preparing for the Colts defense.
Yes,
That's
okay.
what I'm
I
meaning
agree with
by
that. Yeah.
They didn't stress you mentally a lot.
No.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, there wasn't a lot to get ready for. And when I said proactive to Kenny and asked him to expand on that, he said that from a preparation standpoint, knowing who we are going against, he feels like that will be a little bit more of something that, frankly, they just do. So I don't know. It's not what I was expecting from him, but it makes sense once he explained it.
No, 100%. I think a lot of it has to do with the ability, especially in this league, and you hear players talk about all the time, especially with the quarterbacks, and their ability to do different things. A lot of them more dual threat. You want to be able to throw different things at them. And so when you give them the same recipe, I mean, how many times could a team who watched the Colts last year and no matter the opponent been like, okay, this is what they're going to do? That's just not going to be the case with Lou Anarumo. It's never been his M.O. And that's why they call him Lou Daney and the mad scientist, and I get all the jokes. But one of his greatest strengths as a defensive coordinator and one of his biggest appeals to, I believe, this Colts front office and this Colts coaching staff was that the fact that he's going to challenge you. And in turn, will that help you, get some wins that you're not supposed to, or in turn create some more turnovers that perhaps weren't going to be there before in years past. And so I think a lot of that has to do with Lou Anarumo, the new defense, the chameleon-like approach, and also the talent level too. I mean, we can't overlook the fact that as much as I do want to mention that Gus Bradley struggled and maybe he wasn't the answer, he also didn't get the kind of personnel that Lou Anarumo just got, with the upgrades to the secondary.
Sure, that is without question. That's the voice of James Boyd. I'm Kevin Bowen. We are live here at Grand Park. Let's take our final break of the show. On the other side, Josh Downs, the third-year wideout out of North Carolina. He is scheduled to join us here. Report day from Grand Park. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning here. The rest of the week, hopefully, will cooperate weather-wise. Josh Downs scheduled to join us coming up next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we're back one final time here in Westfield. Grand Park, of course. Colts training camp. Get underway tomorrow, 10 a.m. practice time. Josh Downs scheduled to join us here in just a couple of minutes. Currently, Kwity Paye being the media. Jonathan Taylor going to be up next after that. So been a busy report day from a media player standpoint. Thank you to Kenny Moore II. Earlier, Chris Ballard going to meet the media at noon, and our probably our biggest news item so far, which again, not the most unexpected news item, but not great, is that Zaire Franklin did share that he's not expected to start training camp. And again, he had that May ankle surgery, and it sounds like that will impact him here in the first couple of weeks, and he will not be out there. So he could get word a little bit later today that he is on the physically unable to perform list, and just not ideal for one of the more important players on the Colts squad. So again, Josh Downs scheduled to join us in a few. James Boyd just got done with Kwity Paye. It's a contract year for Kwity Paye. How was that conversation, Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, he's still going for a little bit there, but I got, the gist of it. He did mention that, yes, I'm aware it's a contract year and he wants to play well, but he also talked about wanting to, take that other step in his game. And is that a possibility in Lou Anarumo's defense, which I would imagine is probably more aggressive, or at least a little bit more aggressive at times than, Gus Bradley's was. And so I think he's going into a really big year. I think for him and the DN who will probably be opposite of him in Latu, they're both going into big pivotal years,
huge,
I would say, in their careers. Because on one hand, for Kwity, he wants to get paid, I would imagine, as all of us do. But also, as he said, I've had, good years. Can I have a great year? And then for Latu, it's like, okay, well, hit the rookie wall, last year and maybe tapered off a bit. But can I make that jump as well to being a game changer and being a game wrecker? And, again, I think a lot of them were just saying, we need opportunities to go out there and improve ourselves and capitalize on it. But one thing that stood out to me, Kevin, was Kwity said, I feel like this is going to be a really good year and we're going to go far in the playoffs. And I was like, wait a second, hold on. And I had to follow up and say, well, what gives you that belief that you're going to go far in the playoffs when you haven't made the playoffs in 4 years? And he said that he feels like in years past it would kind of shy away from putting those expectations out there early on. But he was like, well, why not? If that's what you're trying to do. So he's like, this year it's playoffs or bust. And so I would honestly think that he is echoing what many around the building and perhaps in that front office, perhaps with ownership and Carly Gordon and her sisters probably think as well. It's playoffs or bust.
We have hit on this a little bit, especially when the schedule came out in May, and I know we'll do it a lot here over the next 6 weeks. But I cannot stress enough, I think the first 2 weeks are just incredibly vital for that goal to be realistic. Right out of the gate, it is Miami and Denver week 1 and week 2. And, I know it's not a given that we're going to have the same Final Four that we had last year. We have had the same Final Four in each of the last 2 years. In the AFC, that would be Buffalo, that would be Baltimore, that would be Houston, and that would be Kansas City. Well, all 4 of those teams are in different divisions. And if all 4 of those teams win their respective divisions, that means the Colts would be in the wild card mix. That means Denver would be in the wild card mix. That means Miami would be in the wild card mix. All 3 of those teams were in the playoff hunt late last season, and the Colts beat Miami without Tua earlier in the season last year. And then they lost, of course, the very critical game late in the year to Denver, which pretty much ended any realistic playoff path. So week 1 and 2, in your own building, you've got 2 teams that I think will be in your general range to be a playoff team. They might not resonate on September 7th and September 14th, but they will resonate a whole lot, I think, come December. So I just think those first 2 games, I get that, when you haven't won a season opener since 2013, that early in the season those games naturally probably carry a little bit more weight. But, I think right out of the gate, if somehow you can go 2-0, I think you got a great chance to be a playoff team. If you don't, then I think you could be swimming upstream.
And what's always fascinating to me about the NFL is that if you start off 0-2, the likelihood of you making the playoffs drops dramatically. And you're thinking, it's just 0-2. You got 15 more games to go. But no, it's statistically, if you look throughout the years, it is very hard to usually make up that ground and to get into the playoffs for whatever reason. And I think it's just the nature of the league, having less games, obviously, than, the NBA or other things, or college basketball, something like that. But that 0-2 hole is tough. But honestly, I don't want to get too greedy here. Kevin, I know 2-0 would be great, but I'm like, just split something, split them and get off to a start where you're not always facing an uphill battle, because that's another thing that the Colts, at least in years past, have kind of faced, is that they'll start off a little bit slow and they'll get a little, behind, I guess, in the win-loss column, and then they'll hit a stride, but by then you're playing uphill so much that you have no margin for error. So when you do have, a loss that probably should have been a win or something like that, you're on the outside looking in.
I touched on the Zaire Franklin news. That probably is the newsiest thing we've heard from players so far
for sure.
today.
Yeah.
Again, Chris Ballard going to meet the media coming up at noon, so we'll see anything more on that front just from a news item standpoint. But, honestly, players appearing on PUP, Zaire Franklin was one that I thought very well could show up on that list. So still nothing official on that, but, again, he did say recovery from that May surgery seems to be taken – or going to take some time here at Grand Park. He did say he's running. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that is a little bit of news item from the Colts defensive captain. If you missed it earlier, Caitlin Clark officially is out for tonight. They are an 11.5-point underdog here with the New York Liberty. And Thursday will be Asia Wilson in the building with the Vegas Aces. Sunday will be the Chicago Sky. So, again, the Caitlin Clark news I don't think is shocking to really any of us. But nonetheless, the Fever will begin the second half of the season without their star.
Absolutely, and I think that's a big development and something that we obviously expected. I don't think any of us thought that she would be available for the start of the second half of the season, but now the question is, Kevin, can you get her healthy, fully healthy, during this part of the season? And honestly, I think that's a fair question, because with groin injuries and muscle tissue injuries and non-contact stuff, some of that stuff, you have to literally just sit down and wait for it to get better. And what does that look like when you're also trying to make sure you're ready to go when you can play again? So it is probably a bit frustrating for Caitlin Clark. I hope that she got a nice mental break, at least during the All-Star break. But in the meantime, Kelsey Mitchell said we can't feel sorry for ourselves. We got to go out there and still be able to stack some wins and tread water.
I think time-wise we're going to be a little tight here with Josh Downs, so I think our plan might be to record with Josh right after the show, and then we'll play that for you coming up on tomorrow's show. Certainly a lot of Chris Ballard audio, and Kenny Moore II was with us earlier. I thought one of the things that stood out to me from our conversation with Kenny is, I just kind of asked him generally about Justin Wally, the rookie corner out of Minnesota. He's a player that this coaching staff has mentioned quite a bit, and I think Kenny kind of went out of his own way to say, well, there are three players that I think, will have – I'm putting words in his mouth, but, breakout seasons or something along those lines. He mentioned Alec Pierce, and then he mentioned Wally, and then the other player he did mention was AT Mitchell. I think Pierce has already proven he can do something of note at the NFL level. Mitchell and Wally, of course, you would not put in that category. Of those two, who would you be more confident in, AT Mitchell or Justin Wally here in the year of 2025?
I'll probably roll with AT Mitchell just because I've at least seen something, and he's played in some games. I know he didn't have a lot of big performances last year, didn't have a lot of big moments, but I'll probably always lean towards the guy that has played some NFL games versus the guy who has not. And, again, let's not forget that, yes, the Colts' board looked a lot different than maybe the, mock drafts and things of that nature. However, it was a surprising pick when Justin Wally got picked up by the Colts. And not saying that he can't play. He certainly has impressed his coaches so far. But I'm going to lean towards this guy who's played NFL games before.
What indicates the start of training camp more to you? The crowing as we walk out on the practice fields at Grand Park, the start of a mower, or a golf cart going in reverse?
It might be the golf cart in reverse.
Jonathan Taylor exiting the premises.
You don't
I shouldn't
see
say
that
Jonathan Taylor exiting the premises because up here at Grand Park, that's been known to be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, under contract, simply leaving his media session.
No hoodie this year.
No hoodie. There's no Jim Irsay bus.
I'm looking out there. The bus is not out there.
70 yards away from us right now.
I will say, I always want to ask the players, what constitutes – how cool do you have to be to wear the shades? to the interview. You know, John Taylor had on the shades.
Kenny
you know,
rocked
Kenny
him
had
earlier.
the shades.
Yeah.
DeForest Buckner did not. But DeForest Buckner's cool. Like I'm just curious. You know,
Michael Pittman Jr. did not.
He did not.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about that. Like, you know, and then it's funny because they get into the tent and it's dark anyway. But I guess when you're looking good, Kevin,
man,
you got to look the part.
The sun never sets on the cool, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the old saying that
That's
they say
true.
there? So, again, we'll be live up here the next couple of days, and Chris Bauer to meet the media a little bit later at noon. Going back to the Wally Mitchell thing for just a second, weirdly, there might be more open playing time for Wally, though. And
Yes.
this is a position
Yes.
battle that
I agree
I'm
with this.
unsure of. But the position battles we know. Obviously quarterback. We know about kicker. We've talked about center, Tanner Bordolini and Danny Penter. On that list, weirdly, could be the third cornerback spot. And again, we know Kenny Moore II and Chavarius Ward are going to be your top two corners. But when you go to your nickel personnel grouping and you bring a third cornerback on the field, Kenny will slide into the slot where he's been such an effective player for you. And that brings a second outside corner onto the field, and that is a huge role in today's NFL. It's going to be a big role in this defense where they seemingly have no linebackers. So when they do that, is Justin Wally competing with Jalen Jones for that third cornerback role? I think Jalen Jones has been a pretty good player, honestly, early in his NFL career.
He deserves credit for that.
So, you know, that's where I think it just differs for me with A.D. Mitchell. I can hear you out on the A.D. Mitchell over Wally, but that's a little different. So thank you very much to Kenny Moore II, James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton. We're signing off. We'll have you covered tomorrow live here in Westfield at Grand Park.